you guys later. That's enough.
The problem that we have with it is, do you really think it's the idea that Elon Musk wouldn't want to spend a few $1,000s on the parts to throw it into space that we have a problem with?
No, I'm saying like what makes it so unbelievable that the question was worth asking a second ago? Like, yeah, you guys really believe this car's in space? Like, why? Yeah, why is it unbelievable?
Because it looks fucking retarded.
What looks retarded about it?
Everything.
No, that's not a good answer. Come on, be specific.
Be specific. Everything.
Okay.
Like, have you ever played a
helmets don't exist.
Okay, so nice straw man. I didn't even hear what you said, but I know it's a straw man by how you
Okay, I said helmets don't exist. Cars don't exist. Helmets don't exist and cars don't exist.
What a weird straw man.
Well, I'm trying to find out. You're just coming up with these vagaries.
Before you
saying things like everything. Well, you know what's wrong with flat Earth? Everything. Everything's wrong with flat Earth. There you go.
Is there anyone in here that honestly thinks I don't believe in cars while driving one?
I don't know. You might not believe in them. You're a flat earther, aren't you?
You don't know if I believe in cars while I'm driving one.
I don't know. What you can avoid believing in due to your whims. You're saying that this is just everything is wrong with it. No, you can come in here and say, okay, the colors are wrong here. Why are the colors wrong?
No one can do anything with you. If you're going to make the argument that you think I don't believe in cars while I'm driving one, we can't have a serious discussion.
You don't believe in jet fuel, or are you one of those? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well,
why are you strawmanning me?
Yeah,
over and over.
Did I not supposed to ask you?
Before this, because this is getting kind of chaotic, I just want to say one thing very quickly. I do not think that the image, the GIF that was posted is real. Actually, I'm almost certain that one is not in space. But I could be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong a couple times today about...
every time you talk.
Yeah, that's right, Jeremy. I've been wrong every time I talk.
Every time he counts saw blades, he's definitely wrong.
Yeah, that's right. I was wrong. I was wrong about who had the most saws, and I'm very.
Is there anyone in here that doesn't know what a sawzall is?
I know at least one person. Kosho.
I know what it is.
Now you know what it is.
Well,
all right, Jeremy. Maybe you can be more. Maybe you can be more expressive. What do you think doesn't look real about this car? I mean, don't just say everything.
What do you think I don't think that GIF. I think the GIF they posted is specifically not real.
We found glitches. There's glitches.
No.
I mean,
the one you guys posted, it just happens to be not. I mean, this is not. I don't think this is taken in space.
Kosho, you're saying that one that New Perspective posted is not the official footage of this ridiculous car in space?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was the official footage.
That's it, buddy.
I don't think it is, man. I mean, is this like a super timeline?
Why wouldn't you crash?
That's how I recall it. That's all I can tell you. I don't know.
This would have to be like a fucking 6-hour time lapse.
No, it's one of the funny things about it is that when you speed it up, the Earth bows and changes shape as it's going in the background.
Yeah, why is the car spinning around? This is not a legit picture. It's not legit.
No, as I recall,
so what do you think somebody made that in their garage and then tried to pass it?
No, they did. This is edited. This is edited from when it was in the what do you call it?
No, dude, that's it, man.
No, dude,
that's how bad it is. It's that fake
footage
that even you can't think it's real at this moment.
No, I'm asking why is it spinning around then?
Because it was spinning. The spaceship was spinning.
Wait, so is the claim that they made fake footage of it too, but then actually did it, and you can't tell the difference? No. Is that the claim?
No, that's not the case.
Wait, Mike, you said the spacecraft was spinning?
Sounds like it.
Yes.
Why was it spinning?
They put it on a rotation.
Oh, okay.
why they chose to do that.
Yeah, Mike might be right. If it was rotating, then I definitely think that this could be real. That was the only reason I thought it wasn't legit, was because it's spinning around. So it's like it's got to be a 6-hour time lapse or something. But
that's all it takes.
That's how I remember the original video.
If the craft was known to have been spinning around, then it makes sense. Yeah, of course.
Look at the studio lighting on the car.
Well, I don't think there's studio lighting if it's.
Ever played a game called Gran Turismo?
Oh yeah, I played that. Yeah.
You know Gran Turismo. You know how the cars look when they're going past the street lights. And,
oh yeah, the lighting. Yeah, I remember all
that. This car appears like a Gran Turismo car.
Yeah, kind of does.
See the local studio lighting on the car? That's not the sun. That's supposed to be the sun. The sun would be blasting the entire car. It wouldn't be a local lighting effect that sweeps across the car.
Yeah, we see the same thing on the Apollo 11 mission where they were on the surface of the moon, and where they were standing was all lit up nice, and then it faded out to black as you looked farther in the distance. That wouldn't happen if they were where they said they were on the moon, and it was actually the sun lighting up what they were standing on.
I'll just finish my point quickly.
Yeah, go ahead, Crypto.
The point I was making, and the Kosho agreed with me, it looks to me very much like a high-definition game car, and rather than a real car. And that's why I think it looks fake as shit. Because I've played Gran Turismo for hours and hours and hours, and it looks just like a Gran Turismo car.
What are they trying to do with high-definition video in a video game? They're trying to match reality, right?
So
you'd have to tell me where they deviate from where Gran Turismo deviates from reality. No, it doesn't make reality.
So then what the fuck has this got to do with anything?
I am trying to, you're saying it looks like it, but now you got to tell me where it deviates from Gran Turismo, or where Gran Turismo deviates from real life.
No, I'm not going to tell you anything based on your framing of the debate. I've already said what I have to say.
I'm sick of talking to you, so have a good day.
Oh, hold on. I think Mike's making... Oh, go ahead, man.
Mike's already tried to strawman me 3 times. He's trying to say that I don't believe in jet fuel. I've never mentioned jet fuel until he mentioned it. He's trying to say that. If you actually listened,
I asked you a question about that. I said you don't believe in jet fuel, and I said then I said at that point, do you believe in jet fuel? I actually asked for clarification, but you were too busy talking over my question to get clarification. So you can go and stuff it up your ass.
Well, no, you can just fuck off. You have tried to strawman me very dishonestly 3 times.
He did.
I haven't done any of that to you. I've done none of that to you. Why do you do this?
I think he left.
He needed to leave because he was obviously claiming something was real that looks fake as fuck.
It doesn't. What really irritates me though is that he's trying to categorize me in a certain way so that he can then defeat like some pathetic argument I never made. Why bother?
That was obvious.
No, you don't even believe in jet fuel.
That's why you should never take the tag of being a flat earther, because you get caught up in all that bullshit.
Yeah, but that's not the problem. I disagree.
That is a problem.
I know, but I mean, I don't know why. Anyways,
you do know? Okay, good.
I don't know why we're talking about that, but I disagreed with what Moyak said though to you before about I don't know what he's talking. I'd say you don't believe in cars, but his question he just asked you, I actually was thinking kind of something similar was. Because you did say it looked like Gran Turismo. I was like, yeah, it kind of does. And then I was thinking to myself, like, but why does that mean it's fake? Like, why isn't Gran Turismo trying to make it appear like it's real life? Like it's like a real...
Trying to.
It's trying to, but it's never going to be fully able to do that, in my opinion. So if you've played hundreds of hours of Gran Turismo like I have, versus driving cars for hundreds of hours like I have, you can tell the difference, right? So that's the point. And I don't really understand why that requires so many stupid strawmen. That's what irritates me. Why can't we just have an honest discussion about this shit?
That's what I'm just.
You don't even believe in cars, Crypto. Come on.
That's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm trying to discuss it because, like I said, in Gran Turismo, I make games and I put lights and simulations and stuff, and it's going to look very different if you just have a light source and you have the car or whatever, and you don't have the atmosphere like we have. It's going to look different. In those cases, it's very possible when they make Gran Turismo, they don't put in the things that kind of make the atmosphere, change the glare, make it look more realistic. But you're also not going to get that in space either. So, like I said, there's eerie observations that the moon picture we just saw and Tesla in space are showing, but I don't think that means it looks fake because it's eerie. I think that's kind of, it's what you expect.
So just real quick, Kosho, you know that when that glitch where they cut to the studio, was that edited in by a flat earther, or what's the claim on that? Like where they cut to the studio, was that like added in to make it seem fake?
It's actually much simpler than that. Unfortunately, I don't want to be offensive, but that is only an issue if you have the lack of, understanding of what you're even viewing. Because it looks to me like
I can only be offended if I understand what you're saying. What do you mean?
Well, you're looking at. You understand where it came from, right? Like it was attached to a rocket. Then what do you call those? Those covers came off. Then their covers aren't there anymore.
You know what I'm talking about? Like in the middle of the car supposedly flying in front of the Earth, and they cut to the studio shot of the car, and then it's like a little snippet, and it cuts to the car in the studio, and then goes back to the Earth shot. You seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that, but I don't think that's what it was. I don't think that's actually what's happening. What's happening
so you're seeing
you're seeing it in the shell, and then you're seeing the shell come off, and you're seeing the Earth behind it. If somebody has it to where you're seeing the Earth behind it first, and then you're seeing it again, it's just because it was cut.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. That's the claim. Okay, I didn't know if that was.
No, I mean it could have been cut. It could have been cut by them in that way. It could have been cut by whoever made the video in that way. But either way, that's not the studio. That's the fairings.
They cut it with a saw blade, Kosho? Sorry, I think throw that in there.
I think a chainsaw.
So there is so then they do have a studio that they put the car in that kind of looks like it could be faked with that studio. But what's the reason for the studio then?
I don't know what you're talking about at this point.
Oh, okay. So there's like a studio.
The bearings are a part of the rocket. They're there to protect.
No. I don't think you're understanding me. There's a studio where they have the car tilted just like it is in space, and I don't know if that's just some kind of like made up thing that they actually have a studio where they could do the 3D shot of it and fake it all. But I think that's a real studio where it looks like they could have faked it. And then there was like a little edit that looks like that was like part of the live thing where it's just like a snippet of the car. But what would be the reason for having it like angled in the studio if that studio exists?
Do you think that was a studio, or do you think that was maybe a staging area?
Well, staging area, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Because if it's a staging area, then it starts to make sense. They would have the craft ready to put on the ship. And when it's put on the ship, it's going to be angled the same way it is when it gets off the ship. When it's on the ship.
Why would they need it to be angled like that, like as if it were?
That's how it's going on that's how it's going on the craft. Like it's
what about the green screen?
It gets put on the nose of the front of the rocket. That's how it's angled.
I don't think you understand. There's like a studio where it looks like there's like lights and like a whole thing, like the backdrop and everything. It looks like what you would need if you were going to fake the footage.
No, those lights that you're talking about, those were the lights from the blast when the fairings came off.
No, you don't even know what I'm talking about. There's like a picture of the car in a studio that looks like it has all of the fixings to fake the whole thing.
And it's in the staging area, you mean?
Well, what's the difference between the staging area and a studio?
In the studio, one is there are two different purposes. One is
what's the staging area for?
To where the car will wait before they put it on the front of the rocket, and one is where you film movies.
Oh, so it's a weighing station, is what you're saying?
No,
I think the point is Kosho, is that there's no way a car can be in space and then in a studio or a station and then back in space again, and it be legit.
I don't think that occurred. That's what I'm saying. I think that the blast that you saw was when the fairings first came off. I think any footage that shows otherwise was, for any reason, maybe maliciously, maybe for whatever reason, cutting it for some reason, just going back in time.
Yeah, but my point is that
whatever happened originally, it didn't happen like that.
Even if it didn't happen like that originally, my point was, why is it they need a studio that looks like the perfect place to fake it, not just like a weighing station to show how it might fit on a rocket?
Look like a studio, dude. I'll take a screenshot. It doesn't look anything like a studio.
Okay, maybe we're talking about different things. I don't know.
What about that green screen meme. Is that something someone put together, or is that an actual picture?
That's just a thumbnail.
Oh, I see.
And NASA actually don't use green screens; they use blue screens. And I'm trying to think what the company's called.
The chroma key screen with the grid.
Yeah, it's like a blue screen with like white lines across it.
Yeah, it's called chroma key or something.
That's not how chroma key works. You don't have a pattern up behind you in order to chroma key out a screen.
Well, I don't know anything about chroma key. I'd never said chroma key.
Clearly.
That they tell you that this is what they use.
I mean, we could see him using the blue screen with the grid. Whatever that's
what
called.
Is the grid? What is the purpose of the grid?
Well, they say it's to provide better 3D context. But I don't know. I'm not an expert in that.
Not even 3D context. And to be very sure, what they actually did was they published this video publicly to show people what the grid was for.
Because they got caught when they pushed George Bush through in a wheelchair. They got caught using it. That's why they probably
didn't
published
get caught. They live streamed it. To say that that's a blue screen, that you chroma key something onto, is completely ignorant of the process of chroma keying.
Are you sure it was live streamed, or did they just put the live stream logo on the bottom of the screen and you just believe it's live streamed?
Hi, Joby. Thanks for nothing.
Talk to him, Joby.
Yeah, just because it says it's live stream doesn't mean it is live stream. You Google.
I've seen all those shows, man. They're just videos for them to teach kids different shit. Like they teach them different physics. You know, like they show them spinning balls and spinning frisbees and all shit like that. So it makes sense that George in the background.
And as George Bush is being taken around, you know, their mission control or whatever, you can see this exact same person with this exact same background behind him doing this exact same thing that he's doing in this video. It's not hidden, it's not secretive, and it's not somebody got caught.
Sure, buddy.
They got caught.
Yeah, these are in all the videos. Like I'm saying, if you go to their website, because they have like a series where they show all these different physics, demonstrations, and this is not like edited out or anything. This is in the shots. I just wanted to post a picture from this is a screenshot. So the thumbnail that's in that video, the green screen, I don't think that exists anymore. I've never seen that actually with the thing. But yeah, in this place, you see how it doesn't look like a studio because it's not. It looks like a staging area because it is, right? That just means that it's waiting. That, you know, it's ready to be put onto the ship. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
actually, it looks like a weight room.
I haven't actually seen this like snippet that they're talking about. I've just seen like the actual footage of the car supposedly in space. But I was just kind of trying to clarify what the argument was. Does anyone have an original live stream, quote unquote, or are we just arguing over nothing?
In that video, the raw video, what is that? What happens there at like 25 seconds? What is that?
Talking about from the you talking about like what New Perspective just posted?
Yeah.
No, New Perspective. Yes, that's what I'm saying. That shot that you're looking at right there, that is inside the fairing. Those are the fairings surrounding it.
The fairing? What?
The sides of the spacecraft that's protecting it from, you know, the atmosphere before it leaves the atmosphere. Once it leaves the atmosphere, they can release that so that the car is not going to be. It'll be aerodynamic and shit.
So do they have shots of it like being loaded in, like a continuous shot of it being put where it's supposed to be, and then the thing launching up? I mean, if I was going to do something of this nature, I would make sure there's no reason to doubt it. I would make sure every single thing is like totally continuous. And yes, we did this. Don't doubt it because it's fucking real.
He's not even at all worried about if people doubt that he's actually putting things there.
No, I think
if it doesn't work for fake, how are you going to know it's real?
Right. The entire purpose of this is not to appease conspiracy theorists. It is just to put something in space.
No. I mean, but there could be lots of regular people that don't even care about flat Earth or any of that. They just look at that and go,
Right.
But
Regular
why
people
don't they at
care
least
about
make it look
conspiracy
believable?
I don't think he cares if people think if they believe it or not.
Well, no, you could tell when he said it looks so fake it must be real. It's total gaslighting.
Well, I don't remember what
Okay,
the
but what
question
was
was.
the
That
objective? Hey guys, we're getting lost in the weeds, but what was the actual objective for this?
it was a testing. It was
Publicity.
testing the Falcon 9 or the Falcon Heavy, whichever one.
Right. They had
It's
other
not-
ways to test it. They could have tested with any other kind of cargo, but they picked that cargo specifically for publicity.
Yeah, don't they
I
usually
forgot the
put up
official
bricks,
excuse
right?
for the tires not blowing up and the paint not peeling and all that. What's the special excuse for that? I mean, reason?
That's not expected to happen. So
Right. The tires on Earth are, when you blow up something to 30 psi and there's 14.7 psi outside, what's actually going on is gauge pressure of 30 psi out in space would be 45 psi, and 45 psi on a tire is fine if it's not going to be on the road.
yeah, and they probably didn't
No
have
problems with
PSI.
temperature at all? No problems with temperature?
Not really, no. Steel belted tires.
I read an article about the worry about the material. So most of the material,
The tires
is
weren't
actually
made out of
fine.
rubber. Sorry, hold on a second. I feel like that was a little deceiving.
Well,
when you tried
that's what I'm trying to
steel
respond
belted
to,
tires.
dude.
Were the tires made out of rubber? Hold on, Coach.
Yeah, which is a solid,
I'm
right?
responding to what you're asking.
Tires were made out of rubber.
Right, which is a solid, right?
Temperature in the area they were in.
The
Dude,
tires are made out of rubber, which is a solid, right?
The temperature in
What
the
are you-
area they were in.
Depends on how you see. Temperature and thermal energy are not the same concepts. I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, sure. What's the
sunrise,
temperature in
the
the area they
sunrise
were in?
and
Are
the
you, if you're
shade.
scared of this question, that's fine. We
Yeah,
can
I'm about to answer it if
move
you let
on
me.
if you're scared.
I'm about to answer it if you let
Get to
me.
it.
I am about to answer it if you
Stop
allow me
tap
to
dancing
answer
around.
the
Let's get
question.
to it. What
If
was
you
the
would
temperature
instead
in the
stop
area they were
talking
in?
and allow me to answer the question, I can do so. All right. So in the sun-lit areas and the shadowed areas, the temperature can differ by hundreds of degrees. However, temperature and thermal energy are two different things.
So, do you know the temperature they were in or not? Stop
Oh,
fucking
Jesus
tap
Christ,
dancing
dude. I
around
can't
and
really
being
make it any
fake.
clearer for you.
Now
You're
you're going to
ignorant
talk
ass.
over me. You're going to talk over me. Dancing around it. Do you know the temperature of the area they were in or no?
Yeah, and I explained that the difference is hundreds of degrees. However, temperature is not the same thing as thermal energy. There are two different
temperature
concepts
varies
at
from
play
hundreds
here,
of degrees.
and if you
From what
continue
degree to
to
what
believe
degree?
that there's only one concept, such as temperature, then you're just ignorant.
as if you
Temperature
don't-
varies from hundreds of degrees. From what degree to what degree? Do you know or not?
Jesus Christ, dude.
if you
It
let me,
doesn't even matter what the numbers are.
Dude,
As
hold
I've
on.
already explained, the hundreds of
We can
degrees
move on.
difference
It's fine,
doesn't
dude.
matter because the thermal energy difference in the surrounding environment isn't that
Run
much.
from the question. Run
There's
away.
no molecules
Run away.
to transfer that thermal energy up there.
Well, I think that
If you're
he doesn't
scared,
know
run away
because
and keep dodging it. It's fine.
I think he doesn't know because all he has is what he
You're not
gets.
doing anything. You're just repeating that temperature is the problem when I'm explaining to you that temperature is not the problem.
So you're scared. It's fine.
I'm not scared because I keep telling you thermal energy and temperature are two
Very
different
scared.
concepts. You can keep running away from that
Scared.
point and pretend that temperature is the only thing you need to consider. You're scientifically
Answer
illiterate,
my
Jeremy.
question.
You just
You're
need to
running away
own
from my
your
question.
illiteracy.
You know the temperature of the area they were in or not?
Yeah, and I explained why that doesn't make a difference.
So you don't know the temperature of the area they were in. It's
Jesus
fine.
Christ, dude, you're an idiot. You're just an idiot.
guys,
Call names.
you wouldn't let me finish what I was saying for some reason. Maybe you couldn't hear me, Jeremy, but I was trying to respond to what you asked before you had even asked it, dude. Actually, was in the middle of responding, or not
You know
responding.
the temperature of the area they were in, Kosho?
No, listen, dude, because I'm not going to fall into the same round and round thing that was just happening. So I'm going to explain it in the way that I was in the middle of explaining it.
Be a roundabout thing if somebody just answers the question.
Yeah, you guys are saying the same back and forth to each other over and over again.
Yeah, because I'm asking a direct question.
I'm going to explain the way I was
asking
going
a
to explain it,
direct
and the answer is going to be in what I was saying, okay? Because I was
a direct question. He obviously can't answer it or is scared to answer it. So I'm wondering if you can answer it.
Yes, I can. It's going to be
Okay, what
embedded
is the
in what I'm
temperature
saying
in
right now.
degrees?
It's embedded in
What
the
is
thing
it?
that I'm trying to describe, dude. I'm saying I read an article when this happened. I'm actually looking at that same article right now, okay? And this is what This is what the article describes. It talks about how people have the same things that you're saying, and you guys are saying that oh wow, the car should get torn up in space, and then you have a bunch of physicists in this article describing actually what would happen and what you would expect. And so what Doofus is saying about the difference between temperature and just the energy or the heat, I mean, it's going to make a difference if you're talking about different materials. Things like metals are going to radiate away the heat as soon as it's reflected onto it. So the temperature.
Just save it. Just save it, bro.
No, dude, listen to what I just said.
He wants to remain illiterate.
Is irrelevant.
Purpose here is just to be illiterate.
Hold on.
He wants to be illiterate. He doesn't want to hear any sort of explanation given to him. No explanation will ever leave his brain because he wants to be illiterate.
Jesus Christ.
Direct question you guys are scared to answer. Stop calling me illiterate.
I'm in the middle of answering. God damn, dude. There's no point in doing this, dude. I'm actually talking to you, answering your question directly.
Can Doofus stop talking?
What I said, because
I don't know what's going on here.
Just listen to the words I'm saying. But be prepared to feel foolish after you hear that I'm saying, dude. I'm telling you that the problem that you're not considering is that there's different material on different parts of the car. So obviously the metal is going to be the most obvious that in space, the heat that is that's hitting it in the light side when it's that 200 degrees or whatever. That temperature though is irrelevant because it radiates. It's not persisting. It's radiating away just as quickly because it's the metal. There is things like the cushion in the seats, stuff like that. Like that will they were worried that like the seats that there might be wear in some of the the thread. Over like a year or so, it might look a little crappy, like the thread in the seats. But other than that, it's going to take millions of years for the car to wear down. So, yeah, this is the type of stuff you guys are talking about is just not something it's going to affect the car. The temperature is irrelevant if it's not retaining the heat.
Bro, I'm not even listening to you, dude. Do you have a temperature of the area they were in, or no?
Yeah,
if
200 degrees, 200 degrees below zero and 200 degrees above zero. Yes.
If not, I don't want to fucking hear it.
I mean, I answered your question, and you're right. You don't want to hear it. That's the reason you haven't heard it, dude. But it's been answered.
No, I didn't hear a fucking temperature in degrees come out of your mouth or Doofus's mouth.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You're not listening. I literally just gave you 2 temperatures. I just gave you 2 temperatures, dude.
He doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to hear the numbers that you said, that you definitely said, that I heard you say. He doesn't want to hear those numbers.
Me, dude.
Possible you're
talking over me. Last warning. Fucking warning, bro. Stop talking over me. It took 5 minutes to get a fucking temperature out of you guys. A simple question. What's the temperature? You guys fucking tap dance around it. And you're scared to answer it for some reason when it was just a simple number in degrees.
Right. And what's the relevance once you have that number? What are you going to use it for? You're going to tell me that the tires should disintegrate under those temperatures, right?
Hold on, dude. Your phone's messed up, dude. That's why you think we were talking over you and stuff like that. No one was talking over you before. I answered.
This has talked over me every fucking time.
I mean, he maybe did, but you did. You ended up when I was
spiraling out.
I told you
the question of what's the fucking temperature.
I told you, dude.
This is the games you guys play.
No, I said right when I told you last time, you screamed and told me I didn't tell you.
Of tap dancing around, I finally got a fucking number in degrees.
Yes, I said -200 and positive 200. When it's not in the sunlight, and when it's in the sunlight. Now there's a next question: is what does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean anything to most of the car because most of the car is going to radiate that away almost instantly. So the temperature is not irrelevant. Is irrelevant. Context to describe what's how it's going to be deteriorating or whatever. It's not like it's in a it's not like it's in an oven or something like that or boiling water. It's radiant energy. And the radiant energy to most of the car is going to radiate away just as quickly.
Right. To illustrate this point more clearly, say you have a block of aluminum and a block of foam. You would use it like you could make a mattress out of it. If they're both at the same temperature, and you put your hand on each of them, the metal, even though it's the same temperature, will feel far colder than the foam. There's a difference in how materials react with temperature and what they do in their surrounding environments if their environment is different. Temperature is not the be-all, end-all number you need to go by.
I wanted to ask Kosho how he knew about what he was just describing, about how it's not just about temperature. Because basically when we form conclusions or like have absolute beliefs, we've pretty much, a lot of the times we've had demonstrations, and I was just wondering, has there been a demonstration of this in space?
I should have prefaced that because I know sometimes I sound like a 12-year-old or something, but I'm a little bit older than 12, so that's not a new concept to me, that there's different types of heat and that radiant energy is not, like, there's no reason for you to expect it to be retained for some reason. The reason why in the atmosphere, like Doofus was just saying, like I was just saying before too, if you have something that you're heating, if you have something in a car and you have the sunlight heating it up into the car from, through the windshield and shit like that, and even if you have the air conditioner on, right, it's still going to heat that thing up because it's radiant energy. That's very different than if you have something. If you have something that is literally engulfed in that heat, like in boiling water, it's gonna obviously retain that because it's in the fucking medium.
Do you have temperature gauges and like dials and
you don't have to go to space.
Instrument like
know this.
Gauges to like demonstrate all this? Did you do this?
You don't have to go to space to know this. Yes.
Oh, okay. So you never demonstrated in space. Okay.
No,
cool.
You don't know. I tell you that that's not a requirement. So whenever I first understood it, it's not because I went to space and found out. It's because I understood the difference between radiant heat and convective heat.
Well, I know the difference between unicorn shits and unicorn farts. Doesn't mean they exist, though.
What's the difference?
Yeah, thanks for that completely useless analogy.
There's actually a real difference between radiant heat and convective heat.
That was a great analogy, by the way.
Different temperature and radiant heat, and but he's never like demonstrated himself. Or
I just gave you a fucking perfectly good example of when I things I've definitely experienced. I've definitely sat in a car with the air conditioner on and definitely still got heated by the sunlight that was radiating into the car. And I definitely have put my hand in hot fucking water for whatever reason. Okay, so these are things
I've definitely experienced.
But supposedly these are
given another example of like an aluminum block and a block of foam. Those are two different materials with the same temperature that you can experience different effects from.
Yo,
those are real world
examples. Hold on 1 second, please. Can you hear when other people are talking?
I know. I started talking when it was silent.
Who started first? We're not little kids, Mommy. He started it first.
Right. When I start talking, I finish what I'm saying.
Yeah, if you hear two people talking at the same time, you need to stop because we can't hear anything.
So that also works for the other party, right? So if I start talking when it's silent and I finish what I'm saying, the other party starts after me. What do they have to also do?
They need to stop. You both need to stop. I'm telling you right now because you've done it to me multiple times already tonight, and you're a habitual overtalker. So knock it off.
Yeah, I'm habitually starting and not stopping when I would, start normally.
People are talking. You can't hear anyone.
If you start talking and someone else starts talking, the answer is to both stop talking. And then you decide, oh, you go ahead. And the decision is made. It's like a talking stick. One person has the talking stick. Right now, I have it. So no one else does. I'm going to stop talking in a minute. Someone else does. If two people speak up, it's not proper for both of them just to bowl over each other because then you just get two people over talking. Both have to stop and say, hey, man, you go ahead. It's a talking stick. So just one at a time.
It's a prisoner's dilemma. It's actually a good example of a prisoner's dilemma.
Okay, so I wanted to respond to Jeremy's example of him being in a car and him obviously feeling the radiant heat, right? But I also understand that in space the temperatures are more extreme. So how did he verify this, that the temperatures are more extreme?
What are you talking about?
Supposedly the tires are supposed to explode and paint's supposed to melt off. Why is this in space?
Because you said that, and that's what was supposed to happen? Or why was that supposed to happen? I don't understand.
No, there was some flat earthers in here that were making those claims. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wouldn't go with it then.
Are you denying that there's extreme indifferences within direct light and out, or within a shadow when you're outside this atmosphere?
Yeah, those extreme differences can either mean something, mean a pretty big deal depending on what material you're talking about, or it can mean next to nothing depending on what material you're talking about.
So do you have
you've tested these differences, right? You've tested these differences and you know the difference.
Yeah,
you have a smorgasbord of all the different scenarios, of all the different materials, and all the different heat variants.
Do you know how they tested them, or how they purport to have tested them? They used a vacuum chamber.
Oh, there you go, boys. Let's pack it up. Welcome to Flat Earth. I need no more. All right, great. Vacuum chamber. Thanks, vacuum chamber. Flat Earth.
Right. So how do you propose on Earth they would test these things before sending them out to space?
What about your space missions? Shouldn't you already have this data present?
You don't need a space mission to know this stuff. That's what he's saying.
How do you propose they would test it before they send it out into space?
Hey, just use a vacuum chamber, bro.
Yeah, okay, good. So now what's the problem? That's right, there's no problem.
That's not a problem.
So you think a vacuum's the only difference between our atmosphere and the supposed outer space?
Yep, pretty much.
Really?
That's not even the difference that the difference we're describing is between the convective, the way that heat is transferred. Like when you're sitting out in the sun, you're getting radiative heat, but you're also getting convective heat from the air that's heated from the sun. And when you're in your car and your air conditioner's on, you're still getting the radiant heat from the sun, okay? And in space, there is no convective heat at all. You're only ever going to get radiant heat, and you're only going to be subject to that when you're getting light shown on, directly shown onto you. Now, just because the amount of energy that is hitting you doesn't mean that's the same thing as you experiencing temperature here on Earth, because the reason you're experiencing temperature here on Earth has a lot to do with the medium and how much energy, how much heat is in that, in that volume of air.
So does the radiative temperature increase the closer you get to the sun?
I'm sure it does. Yeah, why?
Well, there's an increase.
Thermal energy difference.
Hey guys.
Well, you haven't gotten any closer to the sun.
So you guys said vacuum chamber, but the answer I was kind of looking for was, hey guys, we have an ISS that we've dumped billions of dollars into, and we have all these devices and gauges and instruments to do this, because we have every 45 minutes we have sunset and sunrise and temperature differentials, and we could test this, but obviously you guys aren't privy to this fact, right?
Well, they don't have a Tesla Roadster on the ISS last time I checked.
Oh, okay, cool. Then we'll just use a vacuum chamber. Cool. Back it up, boys.
Yeah, no problems.
What is the question? Essentially, what are they trying to test for?
I don't think there's a question.
Oh.
There is a question. You just need to
I'm just saying, they never demonstrated this in space, so you have no demonstration available. So all you're talking about is this cold
when you study thermodynamics, like let's say you're in the 1800s, for example, and no rockets have gone up at all yet, and you're studying thermodynamics, you don't need to go to space to study it, to study the difference between convective heat and radiative heat.
It's almost like the same thing as the radius. So it's almost the same thing as the radius. So we can't
it's not even close to that, and that's not even close to anything that
you're interrupting me.
Sounds like
I didn't get to finish, but go ahead. It's almost the same thing like saying, okay, I didn't drill to the center of the Earth, but we're figuring the radius of the Earth is 3959. The same thing you're doing with that.
Are you sure you understand the claims that are being said here?
No.
I'm not sure that
I'm just giving other examples.
I don't need.
If I measure the circumference of a basketball, I can figure out what its radius is. I don't have to poke a hole in the basketball to figure out what its radius is.
Yeah, but
how do you measure circumference when you don't have a dip angle, though?
Other ways? I was playing.
Well, that's a nice line. Moving on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Because that analogy is not even necessary about it's just like the radius or whatever, because it's nothing like that. We actually can get absolute information about the differences between radiative heat and convective heat without having to go to space.
Yeah, we moved on to your R value. How'd you get that?
No, we didn't move on to that. Somebody randomly brought that up as an example.
Well, you've already gave us the answer. It wasn't sufficient, so I don't know why you want to stay on this topic.
All right, that's fine. If everyone's fine with you just coming in and then
does it for us,
something else, then we'll do that.
I don't understand how 20 or 30 numbers in your head. Your nonsense continuously.
I've been here. I was listening in the YouTube channel. I have to say, Kosho and Doofus, bro, the sophistry when Jeremy was asking you the question, it was fucking brilliant. Cool motherfucking nose.
Did I answer?
We can also add you to the category of people that don't know the difference between temperature and thermal energy. Got it.
I answered his question, and I did it in a generous way as well, because
I'm sure.
I was being interrupted when I started to explain what I continued to explain, which also had the answer to what he was asking in there.
What's the relevance?
I told him what the temperatures were. I told him why the temperatures were irrelevant, and I explained what the issues that would actually happen to the car would be.
What is the relevance, Doofus, of the difference between the temperature and the radiation? What's the difference? What's the relevance?
Well, as I mentioned before, a very simple example, we have, say, a block of aluminum and a block of foam like you would use to make like a mattress or a pillow or something. The two of them are the same temperature. When you touch them, they feel like they're totally different temperatures. Why?
And what does that have to do with what Jeremy's asking?
No. Answer the question. Why? Why do they feel different?
We're not going to go from me asking you a question to me having to answer a question for you to answer my original question.
Yes, we are.
You made it a point.
Why is a block of metal and a piece of foam feel completely different?
You made it a point of pointing out two differences. In which case, Jeremy was not asking you, right? He was simply asking you for a temperature, and you made it a point that there's a difference between what he wants and something else. Now, I want you to elaborate, right? So everybody can understand what is the point of you saying that there's a difference? Explain to us why you felt the need, right, and why it is logical. Just explain to us what's the difference between the temperature and the other thing that just explain to us why you needed to say like that.
He said thermal energy.
Yeah, why does that block of metal and that block of foam feel totally different?
Yeah,
why?
It's called density, bro. Two different mediums.
Okay, cool. So the temperature is the same, but they feel totally different, right?
So because the rubber is different than the aluminum rim that's different from the metal fucking rotor, right? You're telling me that because these three things are different, somehow they're gonna interpret degrees different, but nonetheless, if you fucking heat it in 400 fucking degrees, it don't matter the differences between the rubber and the fucking metal. All of it is all gonna burn eventually. So it doesn't matter. It's fucking sophistry what you're doing.
The reason it matters, and one example is in chat that I posted a video. That is a 2,200 degrees Celsius object that you're able to hold in your hands.
Doesn't matter. Not the point. Not the point of what's being asked.
It does matter.
If I put my oven in 400 degrees,
yes,
does it really matter? Does it matter what I put in there?
Yes,
rubber, aluminum. Let me finish. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I put in there, right? Of course, it is going to interpret the heat different. Yes, of course, this is logical because it's the material and how the atoms are composition. We understand that.
Well,
but nonetheless, if you put it in the oven, it will still burn, all of it. Right? So what the fuck are you guys talking about?
Not at all, dude. If you have 400-degree water boiling, and fucking a lot, and you have a 400-degree oven, you can actually put your hand in the oven. You probably put it in there for fucking 10, 20 seconds. Okay, it's a very different experience when you put your hand into the fucking water. Okay,
and
these are two totally different mediums. They're how you're gonna experience the temperature is gonna be totally different.
It's insane how you guys describe space, the place that it's possible nobody has gone to. How is exactly how Earth is? I mean, it works. It seems to work exactly the same. How Earth works, there seems to be no difference between whatever the fuck is out there and what is over here. Well, the point was that if they're supposed to be 0.17 to negative torr, right? A very powerful vacuum, and some guy just put
negative.
The
laws of physics are the same whether you're here or in space. The laws of physics don't randomly change.
Can I finish? It doesn't randomly change. How about if you put something in water? Would it randomly change from how it acts in the air?
Right, thermal transfer.
So it does change. So it does change. So it does change.
No, it doesn't change because the same concepts apply in all scenarios. You're just thinking that temperature is the only thing that matters, which it doesn't, as I've explained several times with real-world examples.
No. This is not the point of what matters or what doesn't matter. Jeremy asked you a question on temperature, and you sophistry your way into convoluting the motherfucking question, and you think that we don't pick up on that shit. All of us know exactly what you guys are doing.
Matrix, we both said the temperatures. At least I'm pretty sure I heard Doofus say it first, and I said it later. The two temperatures. And I mostly described why that's irrelevant and how that's irrelevant and what actually matters.
Because and it doesn't make any sense.
That's what's needed.
And none of that makes any sense.
An explanation. That's why we did that.
None of it makes any sense. None of it makes any sense.
It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not, though. It doesn't matter because it's what's true. And we know it's true not because of space, but because that's the way thermodynamics works. So when you have heat, you're applying heat onto something, and you stop applying that heat onto that something, and that thing doesn't have any, it's like a metal or whatever. When you stop applying that heat, that object is going to radiate away that heat. It's not going to be, you're not going to go up to it later and it's going to, still be hot from when you just shined it on there. Because that's not the way that, that's not the way that's going to work.
It depends on the consistency of the medium. This is why
I'm not talking about it in a medium. I'm not talking about in a medium.
Why you have, you're talking about an object.
It's insanity what he's describing. He's literally describing.
That's how. What do you think the difference is between radiative heat and convective heat? If it's not that.
So you guys are telling me that whatever they
incredulous, that's fine. He can be just incredulous and use that as an argument, which we all know is invalid.
That's cool, Doofus. So you guys are telling me that it doesn't matter the material, right? That whatever you put and you rapidly heat it up and cool it up, heat it up and cool it up, that is gonna maintain. It says composition structure.
I'm not saying that, dude.
Well, you guys are trying to say that because the heat it gets intense and then it radiates away due to shifting of whatever the fuck.
No, the radiate. Here's the truth about it. This is what
Kosho, you have to stop interrupting. You have to stop interrupting, Kosho, right?
You gotta make your point then.
Listen, as far as I know, I'm a mechanic, right? And I custom build shit. I deal with materials, I deal with heat, I deal with metals all day, right? When you heat up, the molecules expand, the composition changes a little bit. You're telling me that hitting the same material constantly with cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, as rapid as you guys want to describe it, that the composition of the material is going to stay exactly the same and it's going to do absolutely nothing. Is that what you guys are saying?
Matrix, there's a lot of people in here, so that's why I'm just saying. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but if you just didn't have to say all those extra words, like I know what your point is, right? So just keep making it short or whatever. But I was also going to say that we don't have to get aggressive about this either. But I just described to you. I mean, I was trying to describe to you, which for some reason Germany never let me finish about what actually was going to be the wear and tear on the car, because there is expected wear and tear on the car, and it is due to the kind of things you're kind of describing. That's why it's not. It's just not going to explode just because it's up there. But in a couple of years, the material that's on the seats and some of the tires, are going to start weathering in a way because of the radiation. That's true, but it's just not going to be the effect that you'd expect. And most of the car though is going to take millions of years before it's weathered in that same way.
So hypothetically, what would happen if I were to put a balloon in an oven that's been burning for 4 hours at 400 degrees? What would happen? What would happen when I place a balloon in there?
Why would you put it in there?
It doesn't matter. What would happen, Kosho?
For how long?
Let's be very clear.
Notice how they don't want to answer the question. Notice how they're going to avoid answering the question.
It's very important that you understand.
What would
that
happen?
It's very important you understand that space.
What would happen? Don't give me bullshit, doofus. What would happen?
It's very important that you understand.
I don't want to understand anything you have to say.
Jesus Christ, dude. It's very important that you understand that space is not an oven full of air. That thermal conductivity is totally different in space than it is in the oven, specifically because the air is present in your oven.
Are you sure about that? Because last I heard, Earth's atmosphere exceeds far past the moon. So
air is in an oven is much, much greater than the same amount of volume that is up there in space. If you want to play games with me right now, you can. But that was stupid.
Yeah, it's
so
obvious.
So stupid that you guys can't answer the question. And
I did answer your question, man. That's what I'm saying. Let's stop being combative, dude. It doesn't have to be combative. If you would have listened, I answered your question immediately. Okay? I'm just wondering why you're asking it. Because it's not the same thing as Doofus is just trying to say to you. It would be silly to put a balloon in an oven because, of course, the heat is retained by the air that's in the oven. Okay?
The silliness of the question doesn't matter.
Hold on, Matrix. Hold on, Matrix, because that's not the kicker. The kicker is the reason why that's not what's happening in the other place is because in the other place there is not this medium to contain that heat. The heat is contained in the medium. It's being stored in the medium that is now giving it kinetically to the balloon, which is not happening in a case when there's no medium there. So the heat might still be there, and it's possible it could eventually have an effect on the balloon. It's just not going to have the same effect of if it was being engulfed in a trillions and trillions of fucking more than trillions. I don't know how many.
Is there a set temperature to space?
Excuse me?
Is there a set temperature for space?
I mean, whenever people say they're like, 2.3 degrees Kelvin or whatever the exact number is, what they're saying actually is if there is no sun really close to Earth star, really close to you, so the only source of heat you have is the cosmic background radiation, that's the temperature you'll get.
Yeah, but this has
other than that, there is no consistent temperature of space because it completely depends on, for example, are you right next to a sun?
Yeah, but that's not what he's asking. I think needs to be answered by what the difference between what that temperature even means. Okay, because what temperature is going to pertain to is basically the average energy. Like if you're talking about the heat, like the heat, then there's going to be a lot more overall heat when there's a lot more particles there. But if there's only one or two particles there, and the average temperature is whatever temperature you want to give it, it doesn't really mean much, right?
What's the difference between heat and temperature?
Well, the difference is the average, like I was just saying, like the average energy for the molecules or whatever's there, and the heat is going to be the actual amount of energy.
For example, it takes a certain amount of heat to increase water by 1 degree, but it takes another amount of heat to increase, for example, steel by 1 degree. So heat is about the amount of energy, heat energy, and temperature is like the kind of effect you see, the degree change you see. That's the big difference.
It's a kinetic effect, temperature.
Yeah. Well, there's more things to look at it, but that's the main thing.
All right, so what's the difference between kinetic and thermal then, since you guys want to play around like this?
So kinetic... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was actually just lying for a little bit.
So the way I would explain it would be, if you think about kinetic is like a whole amount of objects moving in the same direction together. that's when you get kinetic energy, while thermal energy is a bunch of particles moving back and forth relative to each other, bouncing against each other. So it's both movement. It's both movement, but one is about their movement, like moving against each other, vibrating and pushing against each other, and the other is them moving together as a group, which is kinetic, of course.
So, can you have a pressure increase with kinetic versus thermal?
You don't get a pressure increase from kinetic alone. But you do from thermal. Like imagine, for example, if you hold a tank of gas, if you increase the temperature of that tank, then yes, you'll increase the pressure. But if you just move that tank back and forth, it's not going to change the pressure of it.
Well, moving the tank back and forth would be more like potential versus kinetic.
No.
I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. How would that be potential and not kinetic?
Potential.
It's all kinetic.
Potential versus kinetic. There's two forms of energy, is there not?
Well, potential, we usually talk about, the main way we talk about potential is gravitational potential. So if you lift something higher up, it has more potential energy. But if you move it left to right, then that's completely out the question. We don't really. Yeah, but it's not changed its potential in any way. It's only changing its current kinetic.
It did change its potential when you lifted it.
Yeah, but okay, leave it on the ground and slide it back and forth. Same thing applies. You're not changing it is getting kinetic energy because you're moving it. The whole thing of moving gives kinetic energy, but it's not changing the pressure of it in any way. And the potential is staying the same because it's still on the ground. Or a table, wherever the hell you want.
By temperature and pressure mediation alone.
I mean, that's a claim you can make, but it doesn't explain all the phenomena we see.
Well, explain. I haven't heard an explanation yet. Only descriptions.
I didn't. Was that me, Robert? Yeah, you were roboting.
The conversation goes nowhere. Somewhere. We're not explaining anything. We're not demonstrating anything. They were explaining the difference between the heats.
For example, I mean, one demonstration, I literally gave it to you of how we can differentiate between heat and temperature is the fact that you need a different amount of heat to heat like water by 1 degree and steel by 1 degree. That's a physical thing you could do yourself to see that temperature and heat are two different, or not different, but they're two different concepts. They are related, but they are different.
A unit of measure. That's all I'm hearing.
Yeah, but so
heat
what?
Heat is an actual physical thing, where temperature is just the relationship between that heat and the said object. It's a consubstantial relationship.
Heat is a physical quantity of energy.
So when he tries to obfuscate away from answering the question accurately by saying thermal energy or heat in lieu of discussing the temperature and differences, then it seems like he's kind of being pedantic in a way.
No, because temperature and thermal energy are still two different concepts.
Yeah, describe the relevancy of the temperature. I don't know, in some place where there's no medium. Like what does that even mean? It means
it means there will be a temperature regardless. It's a unit of measure.
It doesn't mean the same. It doesn't mean the same thing as it would mean in as it means in any two mediums, any two different mediums, or a medium versus a no medium at all. It's gonna have very different meanings.
Can you show me something having no medium? I've yet to see that.
Yes, a vacuum chamber.
Oh, okay. So a vacuum has no medium. That's what you're saying?
Yes, that's why it's called. That's why vacuum is vacuous. There's no medium there.
Insignificant medium.
So you're saying.
I'm assuming he's not being pedantic.
You're saying that a vacuum actually exists, a perfect vacuum where there's no medium. This is interesting.
I'm dropping out of this. I'm dropping out of this. I thought you were being better than that, but a vacuum chamber is known to be virtually a vacuum and not actually a vacuum.
Virtually.
You're right about that. Because the medium that's in there, that temperature is going to cause no issues. Okay, so I don't know why you wouldn't use that as a vacuum. And that's why there's no point in discussing it with you.
Vacuum is just what? A negative pressure, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a lack of medium.
No negative pressure. There's no such thing.
Really?
Yes, there's no negative. There's a negative. You can have a negative pressure differential, but you cannot have negative pressure.
Well, I guess
you can
that's
just
a better
get
way
closer,
to put it.
and yeah, you can get closer and closer to zero though.
Right.
Which is
so with that being
toward
said, you can never get away from a lack of a medium, as Kosho tried to explain. That's just nonsensical.
The space between molecules
you can
is a lack of a medium.
You can approach no medium.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and when you pull a vacuum and you pull a progressively stronger and stronger vacuum, you witness the change in relationship between temperature and thermal energy and how the conductivity changes as you're going toward that vacuum. So you can plot out what a perfect vacuum would do, no problem. You don't actually have to have a perfect vacuum to see what it would do.
I can't believe we're still arguing at this point in time. You know, we're talking about, like, you know, we give the example of the oven and the boiling oil. 400 degree boiling oil, 400 degree oven, and I don't get burned when I stick my hand in the oven. All right, why is that? Because it takes time for that heat to impart. Now, if I have a really, 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 really low pressure with very little time medium, I'm going to be only imparting so much heat from that atmosphere that I'm in, and so much radiant heat that I'm going to be getting. And the question is, how much will I be able to radiate away in that time? It then becomes a mathematical formula. Can I survive a 2,000 degree atmosphere that's 10 to the minus 6? Yes.
It's like you can hold your hand over a flame for a while, and without getting burnt. You can even extinguish the flame with your fingers without getting burnt. But if you hold your hand over it, you're going to get enough heat to the point where you can't dissipate it and your hand gets burnt.
I use the example of my my grinder in the garage. 2,000 degree sparks are hitting my hand, and yet I'm not burning because I'm able to radiate few particles that are hitting me. I can radiate that heat and take it away with my blood faster than it can impart to my skin and cause damage.
Yeah, because otherwise you would open the oven and then suddenly burn to a crisp because the air that comes rushing out your oven is 400 degrees.
Now,
So
yeah,
luckily it's not. Yeah.
So if you had a vacuum and you increase the cubic volume of that vacuum, would there be a change in pressure?
I mean, if you had a perfect vacuum, no. If you don't, which you usually don't, then yes.
I mean, why would you invoke a perfect vacuum when no one has a perfect vacuum? I don't understand these types of things.
Well, he didn't listen to anything I said. That's awesome.
I'm not talking to you. I was talking to whoever was responding to me. Gummy.
Right. As you can track the progress toward a perfect vacuum and the relationship of how thermal energy is dissipated, you can determine what a perfect vacuum would do without having to have a perfect vacuum.
So let's just say we had a near perfect
basic
vacuum.
Concepts, basic scientific reasoning, and somehow you guys 10 years old walked into an advanced physics class and can't figure it out.
Yeah, thanks for that. You stick with your space expanding into the vastness of nothingness, reaching the outer extremities of the universe, and I'll stick to reality. How about that?
Right, stick to not knowing science. Got it.
If you call science abstract concept, then have fun with that. But that's not science. Science is all about explanation.
As abstract
science is an
as
abstract
Ken Wheeler
concept, you
stuff.
idiot.
Not at all. Science is supposed to be about explanation, something you guys are failing to do.
It's also an abstract concept.
Not at all.
Right, so I'll clear this up for you. So if I have a weather balloon, or anybody else has a weather balloon, and sends it up 100 plus thousand feet, and they measure less than 0.1 psi, that's a vacuum up there. You could say it's not there, but you'd be lying.
When you can validate.
I think a safer position for you guys to have taken with the Tesla car in space would just be to be like, well, yeah, it's Elon. Maybe he is trolling. Who knows? Because my friend who really believes in space, he thinks that's totally fake. And it's like, well, if that's fake, it doesn't necessarily mean everything else is fake.
I mean, a lot of the things Elon does, a lot of the things Elon does are just publicity stunts. A lot of the things he does, and
exactly, that's what you should have
just
said. We don't know that it's real. Maybe it was then it'd be more believable.
But the thing is, like Kosho said, we have no reason to believe it's not real.
It seems perfectly reasonable that he would do it. It seems like there's no reason that he wouldn't do it, or there's no reason that he couldn't do it. And it seems like it's perfectly within his means to do it. He's saying he's doing it. I see that he's done it. There's literally no reason for me to think that it happened.
No, I'm not saying you should not believe it.
Kosho, sorry, is that what you go off when you to decide whether something's true or not? Is whether there's a reason?
All the things I said. If all the things I said check off, yeah.
Right, so when somebody murders somebody, but it seems unlikely that they would have done it, do you think the cops should sit around and say, I don't think there's any reason why that person would have murdered that person. He's good. He's non-guilty. Let's move on. Is that what they do? No. They actually try to get to the truth of the matter. Because you might have a subjective thought about a reason that somebody may or may not have, doesn't mean that that's correlated with the truth.
Well, Gio, you chose to listen to only one thing I said instead of the entire thing I said, which actually is the reason. It wasn't one of those single reasons. It was the entirety of those reasons. The reason that there's no reason there's nothing that makes that impossible to happen. He has the means to make it happen. It's something he would do. He said he did it, and I saw him do it. Those are the two most important ones, okay?
So a billionaire who has a fake space company and as corrupt as they come, you somehow think he wouldn't have a reason to fake putting a space...
Get over yourself.
Yeah, my point was that, it just, when you guys totally buy this one, it makes us feel like, wow, you're just buying everything. Because other ones maybe are a little more questionable than this, a little more believable, but this one's so unbelievable, it lowers your credibility when you say you believe other things.
Right, well, here's the fun part about that. That same delivery system was able to put other things into orbit we can verify are still there. So whether or not he faked that one or not, really doesn't matter.
How do you verify that they're still there?
Put into orbit, and that's fine.
What's this? How do you verify?
Yeah, what have you verified in outer space other than your imagination?
GPS. We had this discussion before. You couldn't address it.
Belief systems, huh?
GPS is not a belief system. It's a set of signals coming from above. They're inside the cell phone bands, between two known cell phone bands, 700 megahertz and 2.1 gigahertz. So it's sandwiched in the middle there, GPS. So it's clearly not about the wavelength, as Gio was trying to make it out to be before. And if I go to the bottom of a parking structure, I can have full cell service and no GPS service. How does that work?
Because GPS propagates and penetrates material objects differently than cell.
Okay, you missed part of what I said. Cell networks can operate at 700 megahertz and 2.1 gigahertz, which is either side of GPS. If cell networks work, then GPS doesn't. It's not about the wavelengths or how they propagate.
Yeah, there's no difference in the technology penetrating things. Radio waves are radio waves at a given frequency.
Yeah, there definitely is. Cell signal can go through,
coming from above.
Cell
so now
signal
what?
will go through mountains.
Yes, lower frequencies can go through mountains much better. And even high frequencies can bounce over mountains, like you can hit an object and reflect it in.
Well, here comes the fun part. Say you were to get a GPS SDR, some sort of software-defined radio. You know the code that's going into the thing. You built the thing. These things exist. These things also measure Doppler shift. Those things are moving at thousands of miles per hour relative to the receiver. So it can't be ground-based towers because I've never seen a ground-based tower whiz by me at 8,000 miles per hour.
And if you wanted to go down the hypothetical that it was changing frequencies because it knew where you were so that it could pretend that it had passed you and now it's got Doppler shift the other direction, you could make that claim, but then it would do that for everybody, even the people that haven't passed yet.
That and the fact that GPS is a one-way service. The signal's coming to you, your signal's not going back out to them.
Okay,
So
well,
there's no way
I
they
mean,
can know
this
where you are.
part of the conversation started with you saying that you verified something in outer space, and then you concluded at you think GPS signals are coming from above you. So somehow you think that verifies something in a fabricated medium that you've never been or tested anything in.
They're coming from above. They're moving at thousands of miles per hour.
That doesn't
A balloon's
verify
not going to do that. A ground-based tower is not going to do that.
That doesn't verify that anything's in outer space.
Okay.
Well, yeah, at least
What
we've been
what is going to be up there that's moving at thousands of miles per hour? What could it be?
Cool story, dude.
What is it? What could it be? Could it be a balloon? Of course it can't be a balloon. What else could it be? An aircraft? We've never seen one go that fast. So what?
Not many aircraft fly at 30,000 miles either, or 30,000 kilometers.
Just got to play denial. That's all you got to do, is just play denial the whole time.
So you got
I
anything
can
else other
understand
than
most-
GPS?
What do you want from the laundry list of things that we've showed you that indicate?
Well, I mean, we asked you something of tangibility, and you're invoking GPS, which you've never gone up there to verify that there is something up there to begin with, which was the whole crux of our conversation, or Geo's question.
Okay, cool. You didn't listen to anything I said. Got it.
Yeah, I heard everything you said.
Okay, so what about receiving signals that are moving at thousands of miles per hour did you not hear?
I'm not talking about your signal. I'm talking about you going up to high altitude to validate anything. Have you ever, what's the highest altitude you've been up to validate something?
We've eliminated balloons and aircraft and ground stations. So right now, I'm going with probably something that's about 30,000 miles away, moving at the speeds in question.
Let's ignore what the signals are or where they're coming from or how fast they're going.
You don't know where they're coming from.
Let's just pretend that we have to go up into space to physically see the object in question in order to verify the signals we're receiving are doing what they're doing. No, what I'm receiving is what I'm receiving. You can pretend it doesn't exist. That's what you do.
You're receiving what you're receiving. You still haven't validated anything. If you did go up there and validate it, then that would be validation. If you don't have validation, that's fine. You can just say, you know what, guys, I don't have validation, but I believe this for X, Y, Z reasons. But to claim you have validation when you don't is deceptive.
Okay, so you have not validated North Korea exists. Then we can just conclude that North Korea does not exist. That's the argument you're using.
Tactic. Is that
No, it's not, because it's the same exact kind of logic in air quotes. To say that we have to physically see something in order to verify what it is we're receiving is complete and utter horseshit.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I can
right, it is extraordinary evidence to see Doppler shifted signals that are moving past me at thousands of miles per hour. That's extraordinary evidence.
The mechanism by which GPS works is mutually exclusive, with only working from satellites. There's no way at all, 100% unfakeable.
Do signals bounce off of things? Do signals bounce off ionosphere?
Do they Doppler shift at 8,000 miles per hour?
You know, big speeds. Yeah,
that's not how signals work.
And travel at crazy speeds. They bounce, don't they? Unless you're claiming we're getting line of sight all the way to Australia.
If you change the directionality of the antenna, what you end up with is not a Doppler shift. So just moving something and having it reflect off of different places, even though it's not a suitable frequency to bounce off the ionosphere anyway, which makes this whole scenario stupid in the first place, then it wouldn't really do what you want it to do.
That's what happens if you know a little bit about the subject.
Can we bounce it off the ionosphere? Not at that frequency, and it's stupid. Don't. Just don't.
So that's all you got is satellite?
That's
Amongst
all I really
everything,
need.
what about
As you might have heard before, if you have a GPS SDR,
that's always
what
the
it returns to you is...
It's always
for
satellite
shit's sake.
GPS. That's all here for you guys, bro.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, if you had made such a GPS SDR and were able to return the data from the GPS, that raw data is Cartesian coordinates. When it's transformed into WGS84, we verify for sure then that the Earth can't possibly be flat.
Right, and then you wrap it around a model, and that's your proof. Nice try, bro.
Okay, you didn't actually understand what I said, but thanks for the effort.
What does Cartesian coordinates mean? Is that like a grid? Like
it's linear coordinates,
y-axis?
X, Y, and Z. That's what comes back from the calculations from the signal's distance from you. When you have to get the final coordinates that the user will end up seeing, that has to be transformed into WGS84. That's not a flat surface that it's being transformed onto.
Why does it have to be? Can't you just take the coordinates and use it like a grid?
You could. It would just look
maps
ridiculous.
are flat, right?
What it would do is it would give you
look
points.
ridiculous.
What it would do is give you points along the outside of a sphere. There's no altitude. It's just raw XYZ coordinates.
Isn't that what everybody uses when they got a map in front of them? X, Y, and Z coordinates?
Nope. They use two angular measures and an altitude. That's not X, Y, and Z.
You're telling me I can't navigate. You're telling me I can't navigate with a map with, grids.
That's not exactly what I'm saying at all. That's fun that you tried to make it sound like that's what I said. No, what I actually said was you get back two angular coordinates and an altitude. Those things together is what you use on the map to find out where you are.
But we use a sextant, right?
Hold on a second. What's an angle?
Now we're going to
How
switch
do you
to
have an
sextant.
angle? How do you have an angle on a curved surface?
No, I'm not switching.
Yeah, we were working on GPS, so Cartesian transform into WGS84. But now we want to switch to sextants.
No, we're not switching to sextants. You're talking
I'm
about
not switching.
An angle and an altitude. And I'm asking you, how do you have an angle on a curved surface?
Okay. Grab a ball, any ball, right? Set that one great circle on that ball to be the equator, right? Any amount that you move by angular amounts away from that will be your latitude, and along that line will be your longitude. There you go, two angular coordinates on a spherical surface. Those are angular coordinates.
What is an angle?
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Don't ask the question, what is an angle? You don't have to come here and play the idiotic game that you have to ask me, what is an angle? There's no reason to ever ask someone, what is an angle? That's a very stupid move.
Well, Doofus, hold on.
You're talking curvature and angles in the same fucking conversation. Are you insane?
Yeah, Doofus, you seem to be hold on, Doofus, you seem to be on a second, please. You seem to be resorting to a lot of insults. I get it's a bit of a heated conversation, but I ask you to please stop doing that. And then in addition, it's actually a valid question because you're referring to something that isn't an angle and calling it an angle. So instead of trying to condescend and call him names, why don't you just try to get clarification? Because it is true, you're calling something that is an angle that isn't one. So that is a valid question.
Okay, explain why the amount around a circle is not an angle.
Isn't that called a radian?
The amount you travel along a circle, its proportion. Explain that, why that's not an angle. Right. The proportion that you move around a circle. Explain to me why that's not an angle.
Yeah, that's called a radian. Angles are...
It's not called a radian.
Spheres.
It is not called a radian. When you go halfway around a circle, that is pi radians if you want to use radians, or it's 180 degrees. That's an angle.
You can't have an angle on a fucking curved surface. I don't understand what's so hard about that.
All right, so there's not 360 degrees in a circle. A circle is clearly curved.
Are you talking about a circle sphere? Do you realize the difference?
Yeah, a circle is a cross-section of a sphere. So let's try this one more time. Why is the proportion that you move around a circle not an angle?
We're talking about a sphere. Why are you invoking circles?
The cross-section of a sphere is a circle. Do you understand?
No.
Jesus Christ, dude.
No, the cross-section is not a circle.
The cross-section of a sphere is not a circle. This is the new heights of flat Earth, folks. You have to deny basic geometry and pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, excuse me, I was speaking. 2-dimension and 3 dimensions are different. You can't, they don't segue.
All right, anybody else here want to tell me if a cross-section of a sphere is not a circle? Who wants to tell me that?
I disagree with the flat earther. I agree with you.
Uh-huh. Even if he's totally stupid.
Sorry, sir. Can you repeat what I just said? Can you repeat what I said?
Did you say agree or disagree?
I said I disagree with the flat earther, and I agree with you.
Okay. I think it's
But I'm
probably,
not able to make his own argument the way he wants
probably part of the communication got lost.
Is a circle 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional? Let me ask that.
A circle lies in a 2-dimensional plane.
Okay, so is a cross-section of a sphere 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional?
If you do a 2-dimensional cross-section of a sphere, you end up with a 2-dimensional shape. Obviously. If I was going to say, if I take a 2-dimensional cross-section of a cone, I would still end up with a 2-dimensional shape.
Well, to be fair, you added the term 2-dimensional cross-section, which is different.
Yeah, bro.
It's not.
Yeah, bro.
Okay, show me a cross-section that's not 2-dimensional.
Well, you could take a cross-section of a sphere and end up with a hemisphere.
No. Those are sections, not cross-sections.
And just to be clear, I think that Hank may have agreed with you about what you were saying, but I don't think that he'd agree with your conflation with the actual point.
All right, so let's try one more time. If I have a circle, which is a cross-section of a sphere, regardless of what Dice Low says, and I go around it a certain amount, that is a proportion around that circle, which gives you an angle. So if I go halfway around the circle, I went 180 degrees. Now, back to the basketball. If I have that equator that I previously defined, and I'm moving along the equator, I'm defining longitude as an angular measure. If I move away from that equator, and great circles that are perpendicular to that first great circle, that's a line of longitude which gives you your latitude. Now we got 2 angular measures on a sphere.
I've done this physically with strings on a ball. I'm able to get angles and I'm able to determine locations from it in my room.
So how come we're not talking about measuring the surface? Is this a flat Earth conversation?
We're talking about WTS 84, which is 2 angular measures and an altitude.
It's just a model.
Right. So when GPS returns coordinates relative to WGS 84, and we find things that are certain altitudes from that reference, pretty constant, then we can conclude that there's curvature present. If there's a specific part of that that we can question. What's that? Hank, your internet might be acting up. Or it could be my internet. Is anybody else hearing me?
Unfortunately.
All right.
Yep, you're crushing them.
I would sincerely hope that if somebody's been researching flat Earth for years, that they would have figured out what longitude and latitude are by this point, this many years into it.
Have you ever figured out that sticking your hand in boiling oil is worse than sticking your hand in an oven at the same temperature? And we haven't learned that you can have degrees on a sphere. It's amazing.
I mean, I'd be all for segueing into the sextant topic at a later time. So I gotta go. Just keep in mind the sextant you used horizontally. Oh,
I made a pseudo sextant in my house using a globe and some strings, and I was able to determine the location based upon those angles. It was repeatable. I don't get it. Obviously, it works. At least conceptually. You guys
I'll just say that if I were listening to this and I didn't know anything about the topic, at least from my opinion, maybe it's just because I'm biased, but it sounds like, you know, the tactics and the attitude and everything you guys display sometimes, even if you do believe it, it makes it sound like you're just defending it and you don't believe it.
Well, the fact that I went out and tested it by setting up my globe with some strings on it, found a ground position on the globe, was able to find an angle from that, which was able to be determined. And that works. So as a concept, it works.
I'm talking about like the insults and the tactics and like the way that you like talk about people. And I'm talking about like the actual test. That's a little more believable. I don't know why you'd have to test it if there's no reason to doubt it. But at the same time, yeah, that's good that you did that.
Flat Earthers keep on saying that it doesn't work.
No, yeah, I'm just talking about like the attitude, maybe more so from what Doofus and you sometimes, I guess.
There's a long history of people who ignore what he says, deflect, dismiss, and as such, you're not going to exactly be always at your best calmness.
I'm just giving you advice, like strategy wise. If you really want to sound believable, you don't need to insult. You know, I mean, it's just it sounds like you're trying to cover it up. When the conversation goes to insults and conflation and trying to avoid certain questions, it just seems like a strategy more so to win the argument rather than to find the truth. You know.
What avoiding of concepts? I mean, sometimes there's a little bit of an avoiding of deflection, because that's a lot of times what the tactic is to deflect off of what was an uncomfortable topic to a new topic. Like we just saw with, what about sextants when we're talking about GPS? Boom. Immediate segue to that.
I don't think GPS is really your guys' strong suit anyway. I don't think anyone was trying to avoid that. I mean, you can claim whatever you want with the GPS, but we have like no real pictures of satellites in space and no real pictures of the Earth from all those satellites. So, I mean, GPS kind of really doesn't work for you guys.
Like if I see a flashlight across a lake from me, I can tell it's a flashlight by the way it's being wielded, swung back and forth. Now, I could be wrong, and there could be some elf over there with a glowing light coming out of it. But at this point, I'm going to assume that that is a flashlight that I'm seeing over there because it's meeting all the criteria of a flashlight.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I want to point out something. In the Civil War, right, we had hot air balloons and cameras. So we had so-called satellite or high altitude imagery all the way back in the Civil War. Has technology increased? Quite a bit, so, right? So, why is it so difficult to think that there might be some sort of let's say a nuclear powered plane, right, that flies around up there perpetually and is broadcasting signals, right? How do you know it's falling around Earth perpetually? Sorry, hold on.
have a problem.
How do you? Can I get my question out first before you answer? Like, how do you know that it's like falling around the Earth perpetually in this orbit that you talk about? And if the guy from Hubble, if he hasn't never seen it, he's never seen the Hubble telescope floating around there. How can I verify? So the thing about truth is it's verifiable.
It is verifiable. Like the guy with the flashlight at the other side of the lake. I can tell that that's a flashlight. I don't need to go over there and see it.
Yeah, come to find out it was just a firefly.
Can you verify the Hubble telescope for us? Can you verify that it's really there? You got a live cam on that thing?
What?
I mean, if there was an expensive equipment, the first thing I would do is strap a live cam on there, right? That's the first thing I would do.
You ignored it. You have everything that you've requested every single time.
Can you verify there's a Hubble telescope? Can you go there and see for yourself?
I can verify the satellites. I can't necessarily have to verify Hubble himself. I could see something there.
Can you verify the satellites for us, please? Show us how we do that.
Get a good telescope. You're going to only see it as like a little blip of light.
Why would it be a blip of light, by the way?
What?
There's no lights on the Hubble telescope. Why would it be a blip of light?
You're going to see a blip of light. You're going to see reflection off it. Light reflects off of things. You know that, right?
Where? How can light reflect off the satellite? There's no light.
There's this really bright thing up in the sky called the sun.
The sun. So the sun is always shining on the Hubble telescope all the time.
No. Sometimes it's in the shadow of Earth.
So it wouldn't be a blip then if it's in the shadow of Earth, would it?
It'd be a blip, a tiny, insignificant light in the sky.
No, you said no light if it's in the shadow of Earth. So either there's a light or it's not. We have to decide that.
When let's slow it down for you a little. When it's in the shadow of Earth, you can't see it because it's dark. When it's in the light and it's reflecting light, you can see it. It's sort of like when you turn your flashlight on and you're outside, you can see, and then when you turn it off, you can't see.
Okay, let's use your critical eye with this. Let's use logic. Okay, so you can show us then when it's in the shadow of the Earth and when it's not. Can you demonstrate that, please? I do want to verify for myself. And you do know this, right? Because this is science, right?
What is the value of looking at it in the shadow of the Earth when you can't see it? So you're now saying that it's gone, it's just appeared? What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to confirm what you say. I'm trying to confirm there's really a satellite up there. I don't believe it, but I might if you show it to me. If you could show me how to confirm it.
When you do it when it's not in the shadow of the Earth, you don't do it when it's in the shadow of the Earth. Why would you do it when it's in the dark?
You can tell all of us not in the shadow. I'm sure you can tell us when we can see it. Can you do that, please, in Livestream?
Yes, I'm going to go right outside and buy a telescope.
I want to test the science. I want to test the science today.
Get a telescope. Or go actually talk to one of your local radio astronomy clubs. You wouldn't believe me if I showed it to you. You go do it yourself. It's not a hard thing. I'm not asking you to spend $1 million.
I might believe you. You have to try. You have to show me confirm what you're saying. Don't just say stuff.
Go talk to your local astronomy. You won't believe me anyway.
Can you show us this blip right now? Where is it?
No, I can't show you this blip right now. I don't have a telescope on me. Do you have a telescope on you?
I have one in my storage.
Can you show me navigation working on a flat surface?
So So no confirmation of Hubble, just stories and people tell you stuff. I have a question.
Oh,
Have you ever
you
seen
can get off,
the Hubble telescope in your lifetime?
you can get off your I've seen satellites. Have you gotten off your duff yet and actually looked at let's say I forgot where I was going with this.
Just answer. Have you ever seen this Hubble in your life in real?
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Have you ever gotten off your duff and gone to your local radio astronomy club and tried to find a satellite with them? Because you will not believe me. You'll say it's a blurry light. You'll say that I fabricated it. You'll say it's CGI. Whatever your particular method of denialism is, you'll use it. The only one that you can't deny is your own.
Bro, we know that they got stuff in the sky. We know. Since the Civil War, they've been able to put stuff in the sky. That's not the question.
Yes.
How do we verify that it's falling around the Earth? How do we verify that it's falling around the Earth?
I don't know if you can verify that until you figure out the shape of the Earth, because you're stubborn and won't look at any of the evidence. You're kind of screwed there. But you can determine how high it is.
Well, here's the thing, bro. You're accusing us of being bigoted, right? But we've already changed our mind on cosmology. You're the one who hasn't yet.
That's brilliant. You changed your mind for the wrong
anchor bias.
Bad evidence.
You got the anchor bias. You got the sunk cost bias, and you got the confirmation bias. Now, we both have confirmation bias, but I don't have sunk cost bias, and I don't have anchor bias.
I learned about GPS to a sufficient level where I believe that it's possible, not only unlikely, but impossible to fake with the information that's provided. That in and of itself requires that the satellites be exactly where they say they are, the distance they are, the speed that they're moving, or that it does not work.
Or they could just be
reporting. It is absolutely 100% unfakeable. They have to be 12,000 miles plus or minus, depending on how far they've traveled away from you. But 12,000 miles up at the shortest distance. And they have to be moving 17 or speed they're going at that distance. So they have to be going thousands of miles an hour. And it is impossible to fake, because what you get when you get a GPS equipment is you get a almanac message. The almanac message is what's used to determine your location. It gives you the location of the satellites, and that's used instrumentally to determine the distance from the satellites. When you go and look at the time delay between the known location or the identified location and your location, you can now trilaterate your position. That is unfakeable. The system would have to know where you are. And since it's an open system that's transmitted to everybody on the same frequency with the same locations of satellites, that information would be only right for you if they faked it. They could lie to one person on Earth. Anybody else's GPS on Earth would be wrong. We don't observe that GPSs are wrong. So we know that... Go ahead. Oh, you're real funny.
I have observed GPS was wrong. Oh, is this better?
No, generally speaking, you do not observe GPS being wrong. You've observed a few instances where there was an interferer, when there was whatever. I'm talking about never, ever would you get a right position, except for if you were the one person on Earth they were trying to tailor that message to.
GPS works off the towers. I've had a cell phone for years, and I've been
Absolutely
delivering
not.
pizza.
I built towers.
Are you gonna let me
I
finish?
have tested the frequencies. Oh, by all means, go ahead and blather on. Go ahead and blather on.
Right. So I delivered pizza for a long time. Done it for many years, 20 years to be exact. And when I first started delivering and first got the cell phone, with the GPS, I would go out so far that there would only be like 2 towers and my location would be way, way off. And then I would have to drive back towards town, call the customer, get directions, and completely ignore the GPS and go by the directions from the customer because there wasn't enough towers out there. Now, unless you're telling me that there was a GPS satellite shortage, right, when I move out of town, and then when I move back in town, the GPS is now back over my head, I don't understand how you can explain it. I don't understand how you could explain that.
I'm just waiting for you to finish.
Starting. Well, my mother's calling.
Oh, good. In answer to his question, if anybody else is interested, there is two parts of GPS system, especially with phones, is that there's a mapping system. The mapping system downloads to your phone, sometimes continuously, sometimes you can download maps ahead of time. But if you're going with a real-time dump of the maps, as soon as you run out of cell phone coverage, your map will stop updating.
It'll still,
However,
it'll still track you along with the GPS signal, though, even if.
However, the GPS will still function.
Yeah, but it'll still track you on the. It has enough map to cover. It has enough map downloaded that the GPS signal will still be able to take you where you need to go.
It depends on the system, but yes, the older systems, how much they dumped into memory at any given time was not the same.
Hank dropped out. Did he say he was reconnecting, or did he say his connection was going out?
I think he had a call going.
Okay. Yeah, I think people say that iPhones just kick them right out of Discord when the phone rings. Or
I wish it did. I find that really annoying when it calls in. It doesn't let you get to the menu to freaking hit your mute button.
I mean, your answer to what Hank was saying, if what you're saying is the case, then the issue would have not been the GPS. The GPS would have still been tracking on the map it had, or still would have showed your location. It just would have not had the map part loaded for that area.
It really depends on the software. I can't speak to his specific system. I can tell you that I have, in my years of using for data collection, which means I would collect data at like every couple of meters down a road, collecting for cell phone networks, and I have never found massive outages. Sometimes you get into a tree canyon in the olden days. The receivers do seem to have gotten more sensitive over time. But they used to get a lot of frequent outages if it rained too hard.
Yeah, that's kind of weird because I've been talking to these people on the internet for like 7 years now, and they can all verify that there's definitely outages. They tell me I'm 5 seconds. So we were apparently communicating, to the moon and back with similar technology, right? Because radio, Tesla, Sony, right? So
no, nothing similar about it except for its radio waves.
So the waves change?
No, I said there's nothing similar about it except for that it's radio waves. The technology by which GPS works is not going to give you the same results as trying to get a scratchy voice over the ocean with a spark gap transmitter.
So it's all about sending and receiving signals, right?
In the case of GPS, it's all about receiving signals. There is no sending. Not one bit, not a shred, an iota of data goes back. Especially when you have a standalone GPS, which is what I had for the first, 5-6 years of GPS.
From the satellite and not from the towers. Why is it when I moved away from the towers, back in the 2011 era, that I lost signal to the GPS?
All I can say is I haven't had that problem. I don't know of anything except for the fact that the mapping software. What kind of a system were we talking about? Are we talking a cell phone or like a Garmin?
Yeah, Metro PCS cell phone 2011.
Okay, cell phones are in a continuous state of downloading maps. When you lose the cell phone network, the map stops downloading. However, if you look at your GPS coordinates, they will keep on changing. You could even go back and look at those coordinates and map them out and see whether they were accurate. But I will wager that you were still getting your GPS coordinates and it was still updating, but you had no more map, or the map was wrong for where you were, whatever.
It was my location on the map that was wrong. And it was a stupid customer who likes to name their driveway a private driveway when they only have one house on a stupid driveway. So that's what the problem was. The lack of GPS signal to my phone, or you're saying it's the inability of my phone to translate that data, but the map doesn't change. The data is what changed. So I'm assuming that I wasn't getting data from the satellites. I was only getting data from the towers. But
I can only tell you,
I
I
can't
have not
really.
experienced this, so I can only hypothesize what was happening with your system. I have driven.
Yeah, me too.
From New.
But
I
what
have
was the
driven from
variables? The distance to the
I have driven
towers?
from upstate New York to North Carolina to West Virginia, Pennsylvania, all those areas, and my GPS has never skipped a beat. Except for the moment when I'm in a tunnel or a tree, a mountain canyon or something.
That works on a flat plane.
No, actually, it doesn't work at all. Again, you got to go back to the raw data, and the raw data that feeds this thing is not capable of being fabricated, and it does not work on a flat Earth. Unless, of course, you're saying that the satellites are 30,000 miles away on your flat Earth, then maybe you could get some semblance of accuracy. I don't know. I'd have to really think about whether you can make a system work like that with similar information.
You just made a wild assumption right there that it can't be fabricated.
No, it can't be fabricated. Cannot be. I challenge anybody to even come up with a hypothesis as to how it could be fabricated.
You don't know where that information is going. You think it's going to
30
satellites floating around
You have
the Earth.
30. You have
What if they're
30
going to
addresses.
alien balloons, satelloons that NASA has over 1,000 of floating up there?
Doesn't help.
Doesn't help you one bit. Data.
Doesn't help you one bit.
To make it seem like it's a satellite floating around, but really it's just a satellite.
That does not help you one bit because the satellites are mapped out. There is a coordinate that's associated with it, and I'm not sure how it's actually coordinated at this point.
I'm glad you're honest. You're
in
not
the
sure.
almanac. In the almanac,
confirm that coordinate. You can't confirm it's coming from satellites in space. I'm glad you said you don't know how.
You can confirm it's 30,000 miles away, and that there's no way of no alternative answer to that.
You cannot confirm that.
Sure as shit can.
You can't even show me the Hubble. I actually show me the Hubble. You said I should go to my local astronomy club.
Don't need to. We're getting data from this thing, and we only get, let's say, for the GLONASS system, you're only getting 30 coordinates, 30 mapped balloons, if you want to call them.
Your precious data should be coming from a satellite above your head. It does not have to be coming from quote-unquote space.
Those 30 mapped balloons, as you want to call them, is all that you have to work from. You can't have thousands of balloons. Thousands of balloons don't answer it because each balloon would have its own unique coordinate and its own unique distance from you. In reality, that's what would happen.
They have
if I have a balloon that's 10 miles away,
they confirm that, not 30. You're just interjecting nonsense. It's confirmed that there are thousands of satellites confirmed from NASA, not 30.
But not that it will. And no, that is not what I said. If you could get your head out of your ass for one moment and stop talking, you might actually learn something. But you don't really want that. You just want to raise questions and keep your ignorance at maximum.
Just tell us how you can confirm that it's coming from space.
Is it possible? Is it possible for us, so-called flat earthers, to ask you guys questions without you guys being condescending and saying that somehow we're stupid for asking questions or whatever? Is it possible to just answer the question or not to answer the question?
Thank you, Matrix.
Well, it would be nice.
How do you confirm it's coming from space? I'm listening.
It would be nice if somebody actually listened to the answer once and tried to understand it, rather than trying to come up with an alternative before you understood what's being said. That childish behavior makes us get typically upset. There's only a few gems out there who can actually manage to keep their cool under these conditions.
But if you understand it, if you understand it to the point that you're able to explain it to somebody, that alone should be enough to ease your mind, right? Because somebody else's ignorance shouldn't affect you. So I understand that you might get a little frustrated, but you have to understand that person that's asking you potentially isn't as brilliant as you might think you are, right? So you don't need to insult the person, just answer the questions, and if you can't, don't answer the questions. I mean,
thank you, Matrix. We're asking you a fair question. How do you confirm that they're coming from space? How do you know they're not coming from satellites, which are much more local and close?
You can eliminate the idea of satelloons by the things that I said before about the fact that there's 30 distinct positions. Only 30 positions. The almanac message gives you 30 positions. That is all that is in the almanac message is 30 unique positions. Not 1,000, not 10,000, not 1,000,000. 30 unique positions. With those 30 unique positions, you receive perhaps 8 signals from those 30 possible satellites, which are constantly changing to the next one in the chain of 30. Now, with that information, all you have, again, is 30 satellites to work from. You determine your distance from those satellites. If it was a balloon that was 100,000 feet away from me, or 200,000, or 1,000,000 feet away from me, it would have a different delay. Now, if I have 1,000 balloons, all with unique coordinates, they will all have unique timing characteristics and how long it takes for that signal to get to me. They will also have a unique relationship to all other people using that system. If one person is 10 miles away from me and receiving the same balloon, he will get it at a different timing. Now, I cannot fake the location of that balloon and get the timing results from it. That would give me an accurate result within microseconds.
This special timing you're talking about, this microseconds, it's the same technology that Nixon called the moon.
And also, it's your response.
There was no microseconds involved with the Nixon call. The Nixon call was just a straight up, not continuous wave, modulated signal that was sent up to Nixon, to the astronauts. It's not the same as having a timing delay that we're going to use for navigation, where we have to be precise to the nanosecond in order to find out where we are within a couple of feet.
Go ahead, Hank. I think I'm done. He just spiraled into nonsense up there.
Can you clarify
forgive me for interrupting.
The 30, you said that there was 30 positions or 30 satellites up there. Could you just clarify that point for me, Moya?
There is 30 unique GPS satellites for the U.S. GLONASS system.
And I heard Godric say that. I heard Godric say that NASA says that there's more than 30. Now, is that true?
That has nothing to do with GPS. There are different types of satellites that do different things, just like there's different kinds of cars that can do different things. Like I can have a car that can carry a family of 10. I can have, or a van that can carry a family of 10, or I can have a car that can only carry 2 people. Satellites have their own functionality. There's a GPS satellite, which is in a geosynchronous orbit. I forget. The moving orbit. There's a web of them that goes around in all different directions around the Earth, and they all interweave between each other, essentially. And then you have the geostationary satellites. Geostationary satellites are good for things like satellite TV, where I have a dish that I aim at the satellite, and I aimed it 20 years ago, and it still gives me information after 20 years from that same direction. No breaks in service except during thunderstorms. Worked for 20 years without even a hiccup.
Can I ask a question?
These are different functions.
So, yeah, I just wanted to say that there's this cosmonaut. He's got the world record for traveling through time, right? And he's supposed to be like a fraction of a second younger than when he left, because he spent like almost 3 years on the ISS, right?
Sure.
So why do you have to reset the GPS satellites every 8 minutes because of space-time warping and time dilation?
Because they are precisely
Yeah, he was up there for 3 years, and it was less than a fraction of a second.
Yep, it's only a fraction of a second. A fraction of a second is tremendous in navigation when 8 microseconds equals a mile. I have accuracy to a couple of 100 feet in the worst case scenario. And with full precision, I have a couple of centimeters, about a centimeter of accuracy. So the timing difference in that is going to be a world of difference. He also has not, now every 8 minutes they have to adjust a little bit to keep your timing lined up so that your precision is dead on balls accurate to the to the nanosecond. You don't understand the difference between that? If he goes a nanosecond older, what difference does that make to his world? Or a nanosecond younger? It's not going to be perceivable.
Nano. If it's not perceivable, why are you talking about it?
Because it's perceivable at the levels when you're trying to use it for navigation.
Can you confirm that once more? Just confirm for all of us. You can confirm nanoseconds.
By what means do you wish to have this confirmed?
You can pick the means. You can choose. With the question's on you.
I'm asking you. Do you want to talk about oscilloscopes? Do you want to look at?
You can confirm it any way you want. I'm asking you to confirm it. That you're talking about nanoseconds. That you're talking about these 30 satellites that are up there somewhere. Can you confirm this?
Yes.
Okay,
and
go.
not right now. Sorry. I can tell you about the things that I've seen, which is
how much time do you need?
Made. Oh, I'm sorry. Was I talking or were you talking?
You said not now. I'm just asking how much time do you need?
I just wanted to know if I'm talking or you're talking.
You're talking. Go.
Oh, good boy. Okay, so I've seen people who have set up their own, as you were described, a software programmable receiver, software programmable antenna, whatever you want to call it. You can do this and you can build your own GPS from scratch and you can look at the messages at the raw level and do this. And I'm not going to go and spend the money on it. You may, if you really don't believe that it works this way. I am perfectly confident and comfortable with the fact that the people I've spoken to are honorable people and have actually done the test. I've seen the equipment for sale. I can purchase it. It's about $250 if you want to spend a lot on it. And you can go and actually run the formulas yourself. I am satisfied that I've seen the numbers, and that's what they received through the antenna by the methods they've shown it to. I can show you a video of somebody making their own software programmable GPS and show them receiving the information, if that would make you happy.
Okay, so let me explain the fallacy you just made. You trust your people,
the fallacy,
honorable people. Here's the thing: science doesn't rely on trust. It doesn't rely on knowing.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
It doesn't rely on trust. You have to confirm
absolutely relies on trust.
You have to go to the thing that you're turning it to confirm it. If you can't, that system that you're talking to, it could send you any kind of reading it wants. It could send you a reading to make it think you're on a globe.
Nope, you built the system yourself. It can't do anything but what you told it to do.
Building a GPS system does not confirm that there's GPS satellites out there. It can give you any kind of reading.
It tells you what's coming in. It tells you what information you have to work from. There's a logical proposition.
Unless you control that system, you cannot confirm it's legit.
There is a logical proposition that you have to make at this point, which is, I have this information and this is how I'm getting my position. We know that because I have written the software or I've observed the software, whatever. I see the software and how it's getting information. So I have the almanac message and I have the timing delay. That's all I have to work with.
I'm getting data. Hang on. I'm getting data. I'm getting timing. Therefore, satellites. That's what you're saying.
I know that my system is not transmitting back to someone to tell me where it is so they can fabricate data to me. Now, I'm sitting here in my house with my software programmable GPS, and it's giving me a coordinate. When I move, it gives me a new coordinate. Now, I'm by pure reasonable deduction, I am satisfied that that is the method it's working by because I've seen it. I have control of all the features of it. I know there's no hidden information, no secret information, no method for my software to even talk to secret information. And that information still gives me my location.
You're just making explanations. You can't prove it. I can give another explanation. It's coming from a satellite
no, I
or
can't
a cell
prove anything to you.
I can't prove anything to you. Really? That's my explanation.
You guys have set yourself up to a position where you cannot know anything without doing it yourself. So you are now bound and determined to do it yourself because if I do it, that will not be satisfactory. You will say that somehow I am fabricating or misreading or miscalculating the data. You have to get off your duff and actually do something in order to validate it.
You haven't done it and you can't show us. That's the thing. I'm just asking you a simple question.
Yeah, I'll tell you where my satisfaction in GPS came from and eliminated the possibility of local balloons in any fashion, like anything between 0 and 100,000 feet, is my knowledge of radio frequency from 30 years in the cell phone industry. my measurements that I've taken of GPS with receivers by hand, just the GPS, not taking it from a GPS unit, but from a scanner. I've been scanning through an amplifier, measured the signal, and I found that there was no local source for that signal for perhaps, I don't know, almost all of Virginia and all of West Virginia and the southern half of New York State through Long Island and northern half of New Jersey. For all that area, I have never seen a source of GPS that ever got stronger than a negative 125 dB signal. Now that in and of itself tells me that there's not a local source, because as you approach a local source, the signal gets stronger. It doesn't get stronger. It always remains weak. Impossible to do on a radio system.
South America had LTE coverage, blanket coverage over the continent of South America with 12 satelloons.
That's wonderful. So
that just
not,
shows
this
you,
is not a this is
there.
not a coverage issue. It's with those 12 satelloons. As I went to the extent of those 12 satelloons, like let's say I got about the halfway point, 50 miles between them or 100 miles between them, the signal would get weak. And when I got right underneath the balloons, the signal would get strong. It would go for satelloons, at maybe 5, 8, 10,000 feet. You would see the signal rise like up to negative 70 dBm.
How do you know?
Negative 80 dBm. You don't see that. You never get close to one.
How do you know that? How do you know that LTE satellites would get weak that fast?
Because I deal with LTE, I design LTE networks, and I know that LTE signal, which is radio signal, gets stronger as you approach it, and it rolls off in a 30, like I forget what the number is, like 39 dB per decade rate. So basically, what happens is it's the inverse square law. So
let me ask you a question about that.
Fair enough. I'll give you that. I can see that point. I'll give you that, bud.
Let me ask you a quick question about radio wave propagation. Is it longitudinal or transverse wave propagation?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Don't use it in what I do. Longitudinal or I can't even really put that into my lexicon the way I use cell phones, the way I work on them.
I can't believe you talking all this shit in your knowledge. You don't know that if they're transverse or longitudinal.
Okay, can you tell me why that's important to me in my realm?
Because that'll determine the speed or the lossiness of energy
and the strength of signal, if any at all.
I always deal with ground-based signals. So I mean, I'm not dealing with. I'm dealing mostly in the 0 to 10 mile range from any given base station. The biggest obstacles to my signal, of course, are trees, mountains, buildings, and terrain. So I don't really have a huge problem with that. So let me see if I can find out how I can even apply that to what I do.
Right, but we're talking about supposed satellite signals, not local signals, right?
Well, I'm just trying to look up how you can apply latitude. Maybe I use another name for it.
Bro, all EM waves are transverse. I don't even know why you had to even think about that or look it up, man. But hey, I did a video on I did a video on satellites because I was studying into them and stuff, and that's when I found out about the LTE and a long time ago, man. And now I can't even find that information, which is kind of crazy. It's probably still out there somewhere. But anyway, he was saying about the satellites, they're all linked, and they were saying they're all linked because of the anomalies, like the South Pacific anomaly, the South Atlantic anomaly, like the whole entire eastern seaboard of South America. You get bad information, and they're saying it's because it's the Van Allen radiation belt dips down real low there, and so their way around that is they sync with with another satellite, at least one, and they go by both of the satellites, the closest one, and they whichever one's information is right, that's the one that gets sent to you. So all the satellites
what system? What system are we dealing with?
Satellites. The
No,
satellites.
satellites is not a system. What system
I don't know what
are we
system,
doing?
man. I don't know what. I think it was. Shit, I have to go find out, man. But the thing is they were saying that all of them, man. That if we didn't do that, all of them except for the ones in synchronous orbit, you know, all the ones that are supposedly in orbit, you know, they have to link up because maybe not all of them, man. I don't want to say that because I'm not 100% sure, but he was made it sound like damn near all of them. But anyway, that's their way around all their problems is to link up with another one. So if they're in problem areas, they can look at.
Can you help me with that? Like, what was his?
The point of this is, let me
interaction with the satellites. What was he doing?
The point is you never know what you're getting if you're linked to another satellite, you know, because the whole east coast of South America is anomalous, so you're counting on one of them to get a right reading. It's like and then if you're on the other side, there's a South Pacific anomaly. It's like everything in the South is a fucking anomaly, man. Why are all the anomalies? You believe that the Van Allen radiation belt's dipping down low over the southern hemisphere?
You got a better reason?
Yeah, the information they're getting is right. It just doesn't match their model, so they're fucking calling it wrong. Calling it an anomaly.
This is why I ask you what the technology is. Are we talking about GPS? If we're talking about GPS, then I'd be really surprised to hear that. Now, if we're talking about satellite TV, and you're having trouble getting your satellite in from one satellite, you have to split your your signal between two satellites. That's a totally different proposition. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll find out for you.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you.
I'll try to find out, but it wasn't satellite. It wasn't TV, but it might have been GPS. But I'm not. I don't want to say and be wrong, so I'll go check real quick. In fact, I'll post a video because he describes all about satellites. And dude, there's so many excuses. It was like I thought the guy was trolling satellites. I thought he was like a flat earther, just explaining satellites. But come to find out, he's just being honest about satellites, and he describes them and their functions and the problems and where the problems are. And it's just so many excuses. It's comical. But I mean, there is explanations or excuses, whatever, you know, for everything. But so I'm not going to lie and say there isn't. But it's a little bit suspicious, man. If you watch this video, it's kind of short. It might make you. It's a head scratcher, in my opinion. I'll post it.
Okay, I think I got something. You had mentioned the longitudinal propagation waves and stuff. So it's a terminology that I don't use. I use vertical and horizontal for what that is, and we do use that. You can control your signal. You can even determine whether you can receive a signal or at least attenuate an unwanted signal a great deal by
sound waves are longitudinal. Sound waves are longitudinal, but the EM radio waves are transverse. Ain't that right?
What I was reading here, let's see. Transverse waves oscillate perpendicular to the direction of propagation, while longitudinal waves oscillate parallel to the direction of propagation. Longitudinal, got it. Transverse waves oscillate perpendicular to the direction of propagation, while longitudinal waves oscillate parallel. Okay, so does it even, to radio waves even, that almost sounds like you're talking about pressure waves, like from a sound wave, how they come in, how there's a low pressure, then a high pressure, and low pressure.
Yeah, it basically is
not
pressure
sure
wave.
Yeah,
it basically is. You're right. It basically is pressure wave.
So all radios
longitudinal anyway.
So then, from my perspective, I don't ever have to deal with this. Radio waves don't work the same as pressure waves. So it's my ignorance in it is not an impediment to me accomplishing my task.
Nah, you failed. You failed the test, man. You don't know nothing about anything. Just kidding. Don't.
Yeah, I find there's when
Hey, is that your career? I mean, is that
satellite-
your career? Working with signals and
Yeah,
and,
I've been building cell towers since, building in some form cell towers, from design, not like building these circuits, but design, assembling them, choosing the antennas that we're going to use, aiming them, dealing with coverage holes and stuff like that. I've been doing that since 1987.
Let me ask you a quick question. Is it true though, if you touch like something that's way up toward the top of some of the big radio towers, if you're at the top and you touch something grounded, it'll zap you?
An AM tower can kill you. Basically, that whole antenna is charged. The whole radio tower is charged with 50,000 watts. As far as a tower, when you're climbing it, the whole tower is is grounded. But you could have something that's floating above ground, and you could probably get a zap from it, either from the other radio sources or just from the possibly, I guess, from the potential difference from the ground to the top of the tower. So I would say yes, you could probably get a little zap from it, or all the way to a really bad zap, depending on what the cause is. Like an FM tower, where you got, again, 50,000 watts, but that's not the whole tower charge. But if you had that antenna isolated from ground and you touched it, and you became the path to ground, it'd mess you up. It's 50,000 watts through your body. It's like 25 microwave ovens. And I've always made the tower monkeys climb the towers. I've never climbed them. I've done it a couple of times just for giggles, but don't tell my company that. They would have been mad.
I just posted that video about the satellites and their anomalies, and it's also got a lot of good information about the path of the signals and where they have to go through. Every satellite is every signal goes to this one division. Like, I mean, it's not one place, but it's
is this video something I can go into? Is this video something I can go watch like in a short time?
It's 13 minutes. It's 13 minutes. So you put it on 2 times speed. Yeah, check it out and tell me. I'd like to hear the responses to my question. Yeah, very good. Hell yeah.
I'll see if I can answer them. I mean, satellites are not my forte, but I do understand a bit about radio propagation. All right, let me go.
Yeah, cool.
How do I end this?
I wish we could play videos. I don't even really know how to do it on Discord. But I'm gonna ask him when he gets back. Why are there 2 points of interception before the people who own the satellites receive their own data? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not saying about signal strength. Obviously, you can locate. You can. I mean, unless everybody's lying about that, I have no reason to believe they're lying. But you can check for signals and satellites. I mean, signal strength and how many satellites are in range and shit. But I'm not an expert on the subject, but from researching it, man, it's just a lot of questions, man. Like the information, like the orbiting satellites, it's just so many problems. How come the whole they call it the the South Atlantic anomaly? It's the whole east coast of South America except the tippity top. They make it try and make it sound small, but it's not. It's everywhere. It's blankets freaking South America, man, unless you're on the other side of it, and then you get some accurate readings. But I don't know, man. I'm just getting into maps and shit. It's weird, dude. Everything about maps is hard to explain. It seems like, man, New Perspective posted a video with the sun and the different times of year, like when the sun's down toward Capricorn, up toward Cancer. He shows it, like doing a figure 8, and he don't mean that like every day. He means seasonal. There's a spot right after the equinox that it kind of takes a jump. And in the video, he's like, if you pay attention, you'll see it like make a jump in the sky kind of. And I've noticed that before. Didn't really think nothing of it, so I don't even really have to go look, the time of year, because I've already noticed that, like, where not in one day, just where I was like, damn, the sun fucking moved down. It's moving that way fucking quick. I thought it was right there, just something I noticed over the years in this subject, and it wasn't enough to really ever talk about, but it got me thinking. And I'm trying to do the map, and I'm checking like the times, the sun times, and it all, but I don't know if it could do that. In other words, it's spinning around when it's in the northern hemisphere, Cancer, but then it turns, it makes its figure 8 right when it passes the equator down toward the southern hemisphere, and it starts going the other way. But I'm having trouble. Like, it was interesting, and it worked out with the time zones and shit, but it's I'm having trouble like mapping it. So I'm looking at all the times. I live in South Florida. Okay, I mean, I live in North Florida on the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm sitting here checking the map, and where we were going to buy a property is up the East Coast, but on an island spot right north of us is like Amelia Island. It's all island, a spotty, patchy, swampy island, but towns in the middle of all that shit, Fernandina, Amelia Island, and everything, and it's showing it north. Okay, and it's showing me looking like a little bit south of east when I'm standing at the coast as far north as I can go until I hit the jetty where the St. John's River meets the Atlantic Ocean. Anyway, I was sitting here checking it. That's where I surfed, and it never made sense to me. So I went on Google Earth. We couldn't find the place we were trying to buy, and because we were trying to follow the roads, but we couldn't do it. And I'm realizing that it's wrong. It's totally wrong. Because if I'm standing on the shore looking east, or even a little bit south, but east southeast or east, Fernandina and Amelia Island, they run parallel. The road going to them runs parallel with the jetty on each side of the river, where the river meets the ocean, which is facing east or either east southeast, and it goes about 30 miles, 40 miles east, or either east southeast. It runs parallel with that jetty where the town is, but it shows it right above us. And I'm looking at the times, and I'm going to make a video, man. As soon as I get a chance to go down there, I'm going to go with a drone where I can get up higher and show where the stuff's at and show what Google Earth is showing. What Google Earth is showing is wrong, and it just seems like critical information because I'm right here on the coast. So I'm at Florida. So my angle to the Atlantic Ocean is very important because it's the route that all the planes from the north take, going down south to the southern hemisphere, or down, anywhere down there. It's pretty much going over Florida, and then everything leaving. Everything going west, like, is going. A lot of stuff from Florida, Georgia, is like using the Gulf, like going to Texas and shit. So anyway, the angles are kind of critical where I'm at. It shows the way the map shows Florida kind of sticking out, that. And then once you get north of Florida, it shows the everything going north. I mean, everything going east and north. You know, it kind of cuts, it widens, but it's not. That's not what we see when we're there on the coastline. And south, it's showing it. You know, kind of it's a little bit wavy, but it shows it kind of coming out, and that doesn't even seem right. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Like the south might be right, but it just doesn't seem like we're facing the way it's saying, man. So I got to check all the declinations and stuff, because if anybody who checks SunCalc, you know, or is going through any of this stuff, just remember that it's not given magnetic declination. So if you want another way of looking at it, you know, check the compass, because if they tell me my declination's off by a little bit where I'm at, but when I pulled a string line and pulled 90 degrees from compass north, the sun, you know, split the string line on the equinox. So how do I have declination when my shit was dead on? You know, so it's dead on and I have magnetic declination. There might be an explanation, but I'm just kind of scattergunning what I'm doing. I'm trying to do a map. So I checked like Plymouth, Massachusetts. Okay, it's west of me and north. Okay, but that ain't what we see when we're looking up the coast. But maybe it's just a local turn and it's just throwing me off. That's why I want to get the drone and go up as high as I can and see how accurate the map is. But it really doesn't seem to be accurate, man. But if the angle of Florida is off, that changes a lot of shit, man. That changes a lot. Because like I said, all the routes going south go over Florida. And that pretty much determines the angle, the way we see Florida. And its angle determines the angle you're going south. So it just seems like there's got to be some changes made to what we have pre-existing. And it's a hell of a process, man. But it seems like more people would be interested in making a map, man. I feel like we could do it. Just need help, man. A little bit of help and some interest. Some other people interested in the topic, man. To me, it's hard to even debate when I can't even give a fucking map. I mean, I'll stand behind the AE map. It's decent. Just there's just some adjustments need to be made because of the distances in the southern hemisphere. But most of it works. Antonio Subarat's before he died, I think he has the best map, man. He made a map, and it was in his book that he was selling. He was selling Book of the Sun. He wrote a book, but he made a map, and it's pretty good. Whether it's exact, and no map's ever going to be exact, I don't think, in my opinion. But it was pretty damn good, man. It fixed a lot of the problems. I think it made Australia and South America a little bit closer, but it was still a jump. But it seems like that's where we should be focusing. I don't know if anybody's even fucking listening, man. I'm just talking, filling the dead air. But I was checking. Yeah, well, I was checking the time of Plymouth. Okay, so it was I guess, man, I forgot the distance, but it's about 1 degree further west than I am, one or 1.5. So I looked at what time the sun came up, what time the peak sun was, and all that. Then I was like, okay, let me find something east that same distance, because it should pretty well match. You know, something west of me, 1.5 degrees. The sun, if however much earlier the sun rises, well, then 1.5 degrees west of me should be how much later the sun would rise, and peak time and everything else. But it just seemed inconsistent, man. They did not line up. In fact, they were off by about 30-40%. But one of them was further north. But and another thing about the map is I got a garden, and I'm looking at the planting times. And so it tells you, and it has a picture of the United States on the pack of seeds you buy, and it has different layers. There's like 4 layers cutting across America. You know, like down here in the South is like orange, and then a little bit north, like Georgia and South Carolina, all the way across to California, is pink, and then there's 2 other zones. So it tells you when to plant according to your color. Well, my color, I'm far south is in America. You know, Florida's down at the bottom, so I'm in the most extreme, and that same zone cuts up fucking the West Coast all the way to Oregon. So if you live on the whole other side of the country, as opposite from Florida as you can get in the United States, is you plant at the same time. It's the same schedule, which is baffling. Like, hold on now, if I just go a few hundred miles north, I hit another zone, and then I go about another 400 or 500 miles, I hit another zone, and then another 500-600 miles, whatever, I hit the northerlymost zone, you know, of the American plant, you know, planting shit in America. Except for the one at the bottom wraps around it, you know. It just baffles me. Like, how can I be on the same, like I have the same climate as the northerlymost westerly state in the fucking country? It's baffling how we have, how, I don't know. I'm still trying to get an explanation on that one, how we have the same planting climate and we're on opposite ends of the fucking country. So that tells me that it's something's up with that. And when you start checking all these times and stuff and look at the sun time, it just shows you, man, they could draw basically whatever the fuck they want. You'd never fucking know. You'd never know except locally. But as far as the way it ties in, you wouldn't fucking know, you know, within reason. But they could almost, it could be anything, man. It's like, as long as you have everything local, fairly close, then as far as like continents, the way they connect, shit like that, man, there's so much leeway. It's crazy, man. It could be way different, man. It's making me think like like even consider that moon reflection map from that one guy, I think FPV Angels or whatever. It seemed a little out there, man, but it was like crazy. It matched the way he did the flipping it with like a parabolic flip. Dude, it's insane how good it matched with the whole fucking world, man. It's pretty damn close, man. As far as all the little islands, I mean, like not the teeny ones, but the major islands. Like it had Cuba, it had fucking Florida. The shapes for the most part were the same, but it had New Zealand, Australia, just every little fucking, I don't know, man. It kind of tripped me out how that map can explain damn near fucking every major place on Earth, man. It was that's a little bit of a coincidence, man. If it's I mean, it's a bit extreme if it is just coincidence. Let's say that. In other news, I took the I've been taking these batteries. Shit, I've been taking these batteries apart and getting lead and shit. But you know, the negative, I was saying before, the negative plates are good. I seen a video where the guy took the negative plates out of 2 batteries and joined them to make 1 battery. It fucking worked. I don't even believe it, dude. It worked. So basically,
I find that you respond a lot better when I talk to you, and I'm not on mute. I muted myself.
Yeah, okay. I was just feeling dead air, man, while you was watching that.
Yeah, I watched it so far. I'm only about halfway in. I was watching it. The anomaly actually, that's not so much as, it's not like giving you wrong data, like, you know, the miles are longer or something like that. It's random shit. Like, you know, it resets a computer. It puts a wrong bit to the wrong position. It causes the computer to crash. Stuff like that. It's not like it's saying that you're off 10 miles or, you know, always in this direction. It's random type shit, which would be random inaccuracies, not not some kind of a coherent left-hand turn or 100
But it
meters
is
to the right.
consistent, though. It did trip me out because it's consistently fucking unreliable in that area.
It's consistently unstable.
Not for one reason. Oh yeah, not for one reason.
Yeah. The computers can just get fucked up by it, which then they got to reboot, wait for it to come back online, or if it gave you a wrong number, it could say that you're 1,000 miles from where you're supposed to be. That kind of shit.
My question is if they see, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's randomness isn't what you're looking for in the South when you say I wonder if it's an error that's causing to account for the fact that the Southern Hemisphere is bigger on the AE map. No, I don't see it doing something like that as described.
Yeah, but it's possible that it's possible. Like to me, I mean, well, just put on your flat Earth hat for a second and just entertain me for a second. If the Earth is flat, there would have to be something like that. If the Earth, if they're trying to make it a globe, just follow me the way I think for a second. If the Earth was a globe and it's really flat and they're making it out to be a globe, there'd be, that's one of the areas there'd be problems there. They'd have to come up with something to fucking explain that, to people, to normal people like you who track satellites, or even if you have a satellite up there, if you have something up there, whatever, balloon, fucking satellite in orbit, there'd have to be a problem in that area. And it just so happens there fucking is, so it's just a little suspicious. It sounded like a lot of excuses, man, but I can't prove any of that shit.
Right now, GPS, I don't know if I'm sure it still has the problem with possible reboots. So like where you would see a satellite there 1 minute and then because it's rebooting, all of a sudden you don't see it. So that might be some of the reason for outages and stuff like that. Where I went from 4 satellites to 3 and now I can't get a position. And then that corrects itself after it reboots. But that's the only thing I could think of with GPS that would happen, because GPS works a little bit on a different thing. Like the refraction through the atmosphere, I'm not sure how much that would affect GPS, although it would have some. But I think that's all calculated, baked into the numbers. The refraction's already baked into the numbers.
But that just tells you there's a master command in every satellite. There's a fucking master command that's not your computer. So they say it's there. They have an explanation for it.
Yeah, that's only telling you where the satellite is. I mean, they basically, with the master command, they're going and they're saying, okay, we just checked it with laser range finding and whatever else. You're not where you think you are because of the odd gravity wells around the Earth and stuff. So you're 10 feet off of the coordinate that you should be if you were just following a straight line or a perfect arc. So we're going to adjust
if it was only 10 feet, I don't think it would be a problem with that many.
Even if call it 1,000 feet, GPS is reliably within.
Like the whole thing shut down and fucking pop up in another place and shit. Like fucking disappear, drop, just totally drop. My question is they say they have the command computers and all the satellites, and then the regular computer, and so they have backup, and they can cross check the data and give you accurate information. And I'm thinking, so basically that's telling me that every satellite has a command computer. And how would the fucking command computer know if the other one fucked up or glitched or even cut out or popped up somewhere else or whatever, that all the problems they could have?
What do you mean by pop up somewhere else? They don't pop up somewhere else. They move based upon the gravity wells. So I'm basically, at least according to the model, and what they understand it to do. So let's say there's more gravity in this one location because of some geological feature.
But how about drop altogether then? Like if it drops altogether, or if it gives you unreliable information. I
don't see that happening. You basically all you're trying to do with these satellites is know where they are. I mean, even that system with the Doppler shift, the main thing that the military ship needed to know is where that satellite is. And what they do with these ground stations is they say this satellite is here. It's not going to jump 100 miles to the west instantly. It's not going to jump
300 miles to the east instantly. It's going to drift off course by, I don't know, a few hundreds of feet. I don't know how much. But it's not going to be this amazingly
consistently off. But my question is, and it could drop off altogether.
No. What do you mean drop off altogether? You think it's
that was
go
one of
to
the things he said. He said where sometimes, hold on, let me go watch. He gave 4 things that he's saying it does this, 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 and this. I mean, it wasn't just a few hundred.
The satellite can go down. Right. The satellite can go down. It can crash. It can give wrong information. I didn't hear 4, but those are the 2 big ones. Is if the computer crashes, that satellite's gone. It's not going to appear again for however long time it takes for a reboot. And if there's ground intervention needed, like where they have to inform that satellite of all of its information, like it's here, give it all its basic telemetry back, that could take maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes before that satellite comes back. So you'll have to go to the next satellite.
Hey, I'll be back in just a minute, man. I'll be back in just a minute because I got to double check all this. If it was just a few hundred feet inaccuracies, I would have never made that video. But let me see what his claim is and see where the misunderstanding is here. I just want to watch that part and so we're on the same page. But if you're right, you're right. But
I only made it halfway, so it's after halfway. While you're going, I'll go and look at some more of it.
Roger that.
Yeah, I don't know if Brian's still here, but I did look at it. I actually was more than halfway through. I didn't see any place where they characterize the actual distance. They talk how much the Van Allen belt shifts. That's thousands of kilometers.
Yeah, but he said it could be drastically wrong. He said it could go wrong. He said a little bit, or even drastically wrong information. It can cut off.
Right.
Malfunction and But anyway, so it doesn't say exactly. You're right.
Yeah, so the satellite, and it could be drastically wrong, but the thing that I think about the satellite is, I'm guessing the satellite with this system, it seemed like a Doppler-based system, so I'm not sure if it worked like GPS, where it gave an almanac message and said, "Here's where I am" to the ship. I guess it would have to. So yeah,
did you see the military part though? It's crazy. It's crazy that it has 2 intercept points. That's crazy that if you put up your own satellite, then you have to install their fucking their command, and the information is routed through their shit because it's their fucking signals. they got the head. They call it headquarters. The fucking the Navy.
Yeah, command. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, there's like 2 intercept points. So literally, I mean, when it boils down to it, whether it's legit or not, they're in control of the information we get one way or another.
Yes. Now, like one thing that I saw was kind of interesting is that the brute force method they use for the computers. It's like, well, we put 3 computers up there, and they're all running the same code. And if 2 of them come up with the same answer, I'm going to guess that those 2 are right, and that the other one just had a glitch. Be interesting to know how often that glitch happens to more than one computer. But a glitch will not happen. Will not be the same in both computers because it's going to hit this transistor and fuck up this one transistor, and it's going to give you a wrong answer, and the other one's going to get another transistor fucked up, get another memory position, and it's going to give you a completely different number. So
when it could be just a default, man, where they know where it's at, they know where your shit's at, and they fucking say, well, this is where the master computer says you are according to this. We've seen this before. It's just messed up that if you can pay the money to get your own satellite sent up there, but you don't have as much control. You don't have total control like you think you would. I mean, you do have control somewhat, but ultimately it's still filtered through the military,
Really depends. Like if it's not a navigation satellite, you only need to know a rough location for it, and you could talk to it. Like some of these CubeSats, you could have 100% control of that because they're just dumb. They don't have any thrusters. They don't have anything. They just sit up there and transmit all day long. And so you can have it transmit radiation levels or temperature readings, which is kind of useless, but you could measure temperature. The pressure of near zero.
But if you're gonna have reliable location, though, if you're gonna have reliable location signals, you're gonna need their shit. I think.
Right. If you need precision, you're gonna need one of the several laser range finding stations around the world that keep on updating the position of those satellites.
To me, man, I always kind of default back to what you call it, Long, the governor of fucking of Louisiana, when they're doing the bill, the satellite shit, and they signing that bill. He said he thought it was as crooked as a dog's hind leg, but he said but after reviewing the bill, it's that's an understatement. That's being kind. He said it's crooked as a bag of snakes. The shit that they had done, man, like the shit they had planned, it's almost like he's almost saying that it's a fucking scam, but I don't know, man. It's hard to deny, I don't know, whatever's up there, it works. But and I'll say this, man, I know there's shit up there, because I lived in Cedar Key for a little while, which is on the other side of Florida, just adjacent or just diagonal to the East Coast, north. So there was no signal. They didn't even have a phone tower. It was a small little town with just like 500 people. Right. And they didn't have cell phone towers yet, and I got caught out there, almost 30 miles out in a storm, and but
my GPS kept on plodding along.
Yeah, it worked out there, man. It worked every time I went out there, and then they wound up getting satellite signal and shit.
I had an interesting problem with GPS when I was out in what was it? Near Lynchburg. There was I'm guessing something that was blocking me from getting the GPS, so it could have been a local blocker, jammer. Or it could have just been some noisy transmitter in there that was generating bands in the band of GPS. But what happened was I was cruising along down Route 64, and I'm going along minding my own. Oh, it's Waynesboro actually. I'm going along 64 in Waynesboro, and all of a sudden I am doing 1,200 miles per hour in my GMC Jimmy, and it's like I don't think I'm going 1,200 miles per hour. It was the worst glitch I ever got from GPS. It's like, holy shit, hold on.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to explain to I was trying to explain to him that look, if the distance, you can't prove your distance by using speed, or you can't prove your speed using distance because they're joined at the hip. So if the map is wrong, I mean, let's just say if the map's wrong. Once again, entertainment. I'm not saying 100% for sure it is, but if it is, and it's a further distance that you're going, just going to say that you're going a little slower.
See, I'm going to compliment you on something. You seem to grasp some of these topics, but you're always looking for the alternative answer. But you seem to be on the edge of grasping a lot of this stuff, and it's just like, God, I just wish you would spend your efforts to trying to fully understand something and not try and find the alternatives until
it's
after
not that I don't understand, man. It's not that I don't understand, and I would even say a couple things seem to be a reach, but it ain't like it's like everything is a big reach, man. There's some shit where, in my opinion, man, when the example comes up, I'll point it out. But where the globe model is somewhat of a reach, man. It's a good debate, man. I personally think that I think God knows the shape of the entire earth, man. But I try to stay open minded, man, and I try to understand as much as possible. And
well, I think you're one of the guys who's working the hardest. You actually get off your duff and you do stuff.
I'm trying to make a map, man.
I'll compliment you on that. There's a lot of people who just come in and naysay, and we'll say, "Oh no, that's not how it works," and be done with it. But you do putter around in there. I think some of your conclusions are a little bit wonky, but you are definitely getting off your ass.
I just try and throw them out there as possibilities, man. Because I think like this: if the Earth is flat, then it's got to be such and such, or this has to be such and such. And but I don't know, man. It's dude, this world we live in, though, man, is God. It's so hard to pinpoint anything down for certainty, man. It's like weird, like almost any little thing you do, experimental wise, like there's anomaly, like there's always other explanations or possibilities. It's like in this world, nothing is 100% certain, dude. It's hard to pin anything down.
Well, we're constantly pushed into as globe defenders in this world. I mean, most people just take it at face value. Yep, the satellite works. It's cool. It's working by this method. Okay, I understand that. That's fine. Happy, good day. Now, when you try and get down to the precision levels that, hey, I want to measure at 100 feet. I want to measure the curvature. You know what? It gets real freaking hard down those levels. Shit just does not play nice. And that's anytime you make any small measurement. Small measurements, big measurements, they both are subject to the same problems. It just becomes exceedingly difficult to test things that are really far away and really small. So your confidence can go down with those.
That's a great example, dude.
Yeah. And so like when